All right, we got a crash 24 westbound near Bell Road. It is blocking the right two lanes. Then in Goodlettsville, got a vehicle fire. It's blocking part of Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, the eastbound on-ramp from Conference Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Welcome in, one and all. It's 3:06, just after 3 o'clock. Good afternoon. Welcome in to the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN this Thursday, December 26, 2024. I already hate that lady. I already hate her.
I didn't take long.
I already hate that lady. I'm not going to like that lady. I can already tell. Anyway, hope everybody had a good Christmas. I'm going to admit, I'm a little jacked up. I'm a little ready to go. It's our first official day in the afternoons, although this is technically a quote-unquote soft open. When some restaurants come online, they do what is called a soft open to attempt to, get the rough edges smoothed out, as it were. And we're kind of doing that leading into the new year. 2025, where we'll be here 3 to 7 every single Monday through Friday, at least on those days where one of us is not out. That is Ken Weaver in the background, back in News Closet B. Hello, Ken Weaver.
Welcome back, Brother Murphy.
Thank you, my friend. There's Chris Weber. He is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. Hello, Mr. Chris.
Hey.
Everybody have a good Christmas.
Had a great Christmas.
I'm still standing, so it's pretty good.
All right, enough of all that.
I ate a whole bunch. And I dang near finished off a pitcher of Christmas sangria.
Ooh. Oh, that's pretty good.
All by myself.
You know what I had for the Christmas holiday?
What's that?
I had grog.
Grog?
Like actual, honest-to-goodness grog.
What's that?
Have either of you ever had grog?
No.
All right. Well, then we need to back up. Have either of you had mead? Actual mead?
I've had something that they called mead before, but I don't know if it actually was mead. I didn't care for it very much.
Mead is honey. It is fermented honey that has turned into alcohol.
Yeah.
And so it is honey-based alcohol.
That sounds good.
It is very, very sweet, Ken Weaver, as you might expect, because it is made out of honey.
Yeah.
But it is decent, especially if you put some other spices or whatever in there. Grog is mead mixed with beer, watered down with beer. Mead runs about 14% alcohol, and the beer runs about 6%. So it ends up being like a light wine in terms of its alcoholic content, which is fine. That's all well and good. That's not the problem. That's not the problem with the grog.
Well, what is the problem?
The problem is the taste. Grog tastes. When we were in college, we would get kegs of beer on occasion, as college kids do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you had to, because we lived in a college town, you had to turn the kegs in after a certain period in time. 72 hours was standard, but sometimes it was as little as 36 hours. So I remember distinctly my boys and I being very concerned because we had overbought in terms of keg size, and we had a lot of beer still in the keg, and it was time to turn the keg in. Mm-hmm. So we collected all of the tea pitchers that all of us had, any container that would hold fluid, and we tapped that keg out and put it all in the fridge.
Yeah.
And when I took a sip of that grog on Christmas morning, it reminded me exactly of what that flat, nasty beer tasted like in the refrigerator. It brought back a lot of happy memories.
So what you're saying is the name of it is pretty fitting, because grog sounds disgusting.
It's not very good.
Sounds like something Vikings used to.
I think that's what we're talking about. I mean, back in the Elizabethan day. I mean, I'm certain that Henry VIII King Henry VIII, Ken Weaver,
Yeah.
had grog or mead or, whatever he wanted, really, wine, whatever for him. But I did not recommend it, although we got it from a local business here in town. And I want to support local business.
Yeah.
So you didn't make the grog. You didn't mix the beer and the mead. It was already pre-done for you.
You had the mead option and you had the homemade beer option, and then they said, well, there's grog. And then we went through the whole bit that I just went through.
Gotcha.
What is grog? Okay, grog's a mixture of the two. It's a nice little blend. It cuts into the sweet of the mead, and it adds a little flavor from the beer, none of which I found to be necessarily true, but, to each their own. But
you still drank it, though, didn't you?
Yeah, hell yeah. We drank all of it.
What'd you say is about 14%?
This grog was, the mead's about 14%. I think the grog's like 9%.
Goodness.
So, it'll hit you. But here's the thing. My father-in-law and I were drinking it, and we took our first little sip of it, and both was like, this is nasty. This is awful. And we made it through the first cup, and we went back to the grog, whatever they call that, the growler, I guess it was, because I bought a growler of grog. And we went back, and as we slowly made our way through the growler, we both agreed that it tasted better as it went along.
Yeah. So it did the trick, is what you're saying.
Which is standard. That's SOP, standard operating procedure. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas holiday. I hope you're having a great after Christmas on this 26th day of December. It's my episode 716. You'll forgive me. I'm going to continue to count up. Those are days that I've been broadcasting on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and I've loved every single one of them. Well, most of them. Maybe 2 or 3 that I haven't. It is also locked for Trump Day 299. For those of you watching on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, 299 days now I've been growing this out. And that seemed odd. It seemed more than it should, but then I realized I started growing my hair on March 1st. January and February, that would be roughly 30 days each. So, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with 299 days of growing this stuff out until Inauguration Day, and then we'll figure something out. Believe it or not, there's lots to talk about during this week between Christmas and New Year's. Normally, that's somewhat of a dead zone in our business in talk radio, but we've lots to discuss. Plus, I've got a lot to say about things that have happened over the last several days, and I know that I've not been here pre-Christmas. I spent about a week off, resting and relaxing, anticipating today, and I'm so excited about it. And I've got a few things to say about that as well as we get things going. First and foremost, God bless Brian Wilson in his retirement, and I am so thankful that I came to know him over the 3 years that we've known him. I know so many of you are going to miss Brian. Believe it or not, you're going to hear him aplenty in 2025. He's got a lot of projects on the horizon, and we'll be hearing from Brian. And obviously, he has been gracious enough in his retirement to suggest that he's going to do some fill-in work over the course of the year. As people are out, you guys know how it goes. Chris Hand's out, Matt Murphy's out, Chad Benson's out, Dan Mandis. Wilson has offered his services in that regard, but we wish him the best in retirement, and we're so, so happy that it happened in the fashion that it did. I cannot say enough about how proud I am to know him and how excited I am for the next adventures that wait just around the corner. As it has always been said, you don't retire from something, you retire to something, and he's got a lot of somethings on the horizon. And we absolutely love Brian Wilson, and I can only hope to hold on to a precious few of you in the afternoon drive time slot. This idea that I am hosting in the same place as Brian Wilson, that I'm hosting in the same place as Phil Valentine, the late, great Phil Valentine, is daunting to say the least. It is as shocking to me as I'm sure it is to you. But I hope to create those bonds together that will be lasting throughout the course of 2025 and well beyond. And it's a new show. And look, here's the bottom line. Many of you have had an opportunity to listen to me from noon until 3. Many of you have had an opportunity to know how I handle my business. I'm fiercely independent. I belong to no club that would have me as a member. Why would I? That's an old Groucho Marx line, and I love it, and it's true. I'm a fierce believer in liberty and freedom, and I will reintroduce and introduce those concepts with regularity in the afternoon time slot. I do not belong to Club Republican. I do not belong to Club Democrat. I don't really belong to Club Conservative either, although I align myself with those values far more so than really any other in political prominence in the United States of America. For those who don't know me, who don't are not able to regularly listen, I would classify myself as a small L libertarian. I don't belong to the political party that is the Libertarian political party, but I do believe in the basic philosophy of government, that government serves best when it serves least and only when absolutely necessary. So in that spirit, if you've heard the Noon to 3 show, or if you've heard me filling in for Brian Wilson over the past month or so, or over the past year, really, when Brian was off, they graciously allowed me to fill in. Here's the deal. The show is going to be exactly the same unless you hated it, in which case it's going to be far better. So we're going to do if you hated the show prior to this moment, just know that we're changing everything just for you. Just for you. And it's going to be a lot better. If you liked the show, exact same show. So there you go. Obviously, over the Christmas holiday, there's a lot of changes going on with the movement in the radio station. But even beyond that, there's just a tremendous amount of change happening across the United States of America. Most of us anticipating the coming inauguration of Donald Trump and everything that we believe that will bring. There were a number of issues that came up during my time away that I want to get into today. But before we do that, I just invite you to set a reminder to listen to us on a day-to-day basis. We're just calling ourselves the Matt Murphy Show. I'm sorry that we couldn't come up with something a little more inventive. Maybe something will come along over the course of the next few weeks or months that will stick. One way or the other, I hope you're able to catch us and listen as you can. We're going to do something at 4 o'clock that I started when I first came to Nashville, Tennessee in 2021, because I felt like it was impolite just to come on the airwaves, 100,000-watt blowtorch radio station and YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all of that, and just start, rambling on and espousing, all of my viewpoints about the world at large. And so I felt like we should get to know one another. We're one big family. It's like doing this is like an electronic public square, it is an electronic public square, but it's like a gathering of people at a big party from all different kinds of walks of life, and you want to know who's talking to you. You want to know who is expressing a viewpoint here, there, or anywhere. And so in the effort to get to know folks, we in 2021 played a game called Getting to Know You. And it went over so horribly. It was so little received that I thought we'd bring it back after 3 years of its hiatus.
That makes sense.
And I figured let's sling the hits. So at 4:05 today, we're going to play a game of Getting to Know You, because I feel like this is a little bit different, though, because while I know Chris Webber, while I know Ken Weaver, and I've worked with both of these men, do I really know them in the fashion that you get to know someone when you work together 4 hours a day? You become family, truly. And so I feel like I need to get to know Chris and Ken. They need to get to know me, and you can get to know a little about all of us. So the way that this works is I have, right now 4. There will be 5 before 4:05. I have 4 questions, soon to be 5 questions. And we'll do this over the course of the next couple of weeks, where we'll just I'll ask some questions and it'll stimulate a little conversation. It should be a lot of fun.
You're going to ask us questions, huh?
I'm going to ask the panel. Now, you guys can ask questions, too. If you want to bring questions to the party, y'all should bring questions to the party, too. All right, that's a great idea.
Open my big mouth.
I was getting ready to say.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, these are the types of questions. You want me to give you a sample of what we're talking about?
Let's just see what we're working with here.
Like, this is question number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
What is the fastest you've ever been in an automobile?
What's that again?
What is the fastest that you've ever been in an automobile?
Oh, okay.
These types of things.
Yeah.
Just to get to know you.
All right.
See what's going on in your world. I have another question based on something that happened to me over the holiday. I'll tell you what, I'll give you one more teaser. What is the scariest movie that you can handle? Like, that you've ever seen?
Wow.
The scariest, because I watched one over the holiday that I would not recommend to anybody. My worst enemies. And it was, I don't know why I watched the whole thing, but I did. And it was I was watching on my laptop because I couldn't find it. I'll tell the story. I'll tell the story right now. I saw something about this online that it was listed as one of the 10 scariest, most disturbing movies of all time. And so I start looking it up, and I was curious, and I couldn't find it and couldn't find it and couldn't find it. And then I finally found it's like not on YouTube. It's on none of the standard platforms.
Yeah. I think I may have seen this same story, and I'm wondering if it's the same movie. So
you want to know the movie? I'll tell you at 4:05.
Yeah, tell me.
Professional tease. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I watched the whole thing. Would not recommend it. Would not. And it's not even that it's gory. It's just, I don't know. I just wouldn't recommend it. But these are the types of things for the getting to know you segment. Just I want to know. I just want to know more about Chris Webber and Ken Weaver and how they operate outside of radio.
You may find out you really wish you hadn't gotten to know us.
It might be true. All right, we're gonna get to some of the news of the day. I mean, believe it or not, there is news going on during the holiday break, if you will. Joe Biden has decided that it's a good time for a vacation. Why not? Why not? When we come back, we will discuss. And I know that I'm going to cover some of the things that have been covered over the week that I've been gone. But I feel like I can offer you a different take on it. Everything that we thought we knew about Joe Biden was true. Every single thing. Every single thing. And I'm wondering, at what point is someone held to account? Because we can laugh, we can joke about it, we can have a good time about it. But there's a serious side to what's been going on over the last 4 years. And we'll discuss that next when it comes to Joe Biden and his permanent vacation. And that's happening on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
A chance for strong storms. We're going to have details during the newscasts coming up. Also, one person is dead after a stabbing at a Kroger distribution center in Tennessee. That and more at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It's 26 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of you communicating on the Super Text line. We appreciate that. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. I'm sort of a structure-free zone when it comes to how we do the radio show, for better or for worse. It's done me fairly well over the 25 years that I've been doing this, but for some, it's a little frenetic and out of control for most. That said, much to the delight of Chris Webber. I know your Farb, he would love telephone calls, but he would do them at specific times.
Yeah.
And much to the delight of Chris Webber, we just open up the phone lines any old time you want to call about any subject that you want to call about. Now, that does mean that sometimes it takes me a little longer to get to you than others, but I try to communicate on the phones as much as humanly possible. 615-737-9986. And I know you love that.
So excited.
It's only one of the 14, 15, 16 things you got going at any given moment, right?
I really, it's not so much about the phone itself. It's the people that I just don't like.
I was listening, in that spirit, I was listening to Cameron Smith filling in for Chad earlier, and he was talking about the self-checkout. And he said one of the things that he doesn't like about self-checkout is that you don't get to talk to people. And I was like, well, damn, that's the only thing I like about self-checkout.
Yeah.
Is that I don't have to communicate. I don't have to do that weird.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, good. How are you? Oh, did you have a good night? Oh, what you got planned?
Just shut up and bag the groceries.
That's exactly right. I mean, what I like to do, and this is just my sense of humor, is I like to, if somebody gives me the how you doing, just pause and say, you got a minute. Just give them, do you have a couple minutes? Do we,
When you got a break coming up soon?
do we have someplace we could go sit down? I really need to talk to somebody.
You could just cough on them. Just sneeze and cough right on
Give
them.
them one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, just here's the money.
I'm glad you asked.
Here, thanks for asking. I'm not doing well. Although the rash has gotten better. Thank you.
Want to see it?
No, the and tell me if I'm wrong, Weber, but the issue is, and we love you. We love every single one of you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if you're in the call, if you've ever called a radio, we're not talking about you. We're talking about the other guy.
Yeah.
But if you call, you don't have to tell Chris everything that you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Right.
I would rather you not. I mean, we don't want you to lose steam there.
Right, that's right. That's right. I
You got
mean,
a
it's
hot
for the
take,
better.
just
That's
say
exactly right. You just say, "Hey, this is my subject. This is who I am, and this is where I'm calling from." Those are the three things you need. Right?
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. My favorite comment, because believe it or not, I produced radio way back in the day, and my favorite was always, you pick up the phone, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, or whatever you say, Matt Murphy Show. I don't want to go on the air, but
Oh, that's the good one, boy.
that's the one.
That's
the
it.
one.
When I instantly would go, yeah, how can I get out of this, and how fast can I get out of it?
If you say the words, I don't want to go on the air, but Chris is immediately thinking, I need to get off the phone as soon as possible.
Yeah.
No offense to you at all.
And I think probably the big issue with most people that are listening, they don't really understand. They think that there's a dedicated person that answers the phone.
Right.
No, it's just me. I'm the only guy in here. I push all the buttons and handle the phones, and I'm handling this. So I don't have the time to listen to your life story. I'm sorry.
Producing a radio show in 2024, almost 2025, with no offense to what Ken's doing. I mean, Ken's doing a lot of work back there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to do my thing over here. I'm probably the person that's working the least because producing a radio show in 2025 has far more components than I think most people imagine. And it is a very difficult job because you have to be able to, I've long said, the trick of being a good producer is that you have to be able to listen to 3 or 4 things at once and understand which is the most important thing. And those things
You're
can
right.
switch at any given second.
Yeah.
So you're on the phone, you're listening to what Matt Murphy is blathering about on the radio. You're probably watching, Super Talk TV. You're probably listening to Ken in your ear talking about when there's a lot of things going on. Merry Christmas. So give Chris a call and make him work a little bit harder. 615-737-9986. But Tom has the whole point was on the super text line. Tom has written in and said, Matt, could you keep a version of the 5:30 Gang of Three Amigos? Thanks, Tom. I've thought a lot about that, and we're going to do something a little bit different, but it is going to involve all three of us because I could never replicate the Gang of Three Amigos because one of the Amigos in the Three Amigos isn't here. That would be Brian Wilson.
There's no gang, by the way. It's just the three amigos.
It was just the Three Amigos.
That was some kind of Dan
It was
Mandis.
very confusing. By the way, speaking of Dan Mandis, as I squirrel myself, happy birthday, Dan.
Brother Dan Mandis.
That's right.
How about that big birthday today? Poor Dan. I mean, isn't it exactly like Dan to have a birthday the day after Christmas?
It kind of is, yeah.
Doesn't it fit his character?
Yeah.
And I say that with love in my heart. Happy birthday, Dan. I hope you're doing well. You can listen to Dan Mandis tonight on Red Eye Radio starting at midnight on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So it was the Three Amigos. What we're going to do is that every day I'm going to charge Chris Webber and Ken Weaver, and then I also will charge myself with the duty of coming up with the biggest nincompoop, and we're not starting this until January, the biggest nincompoop in the news. And we're going to call the segment Nincompoops in the News.
I like it.
Nincompoops.
So each day, Ken Weaver, Chris Webber, and Matt Murphy will nominate a nincompoop. It could be it could be Joe Biden. It could be someone in D.C. It could be someone in Tennessee. It could be a politician. It could be an entertainment figure. It could be anybody. It could be somebody that you've never heard of before. But any story that we choose to bring to the table, we will nominate as nincompoops, and then the audience gets to vote on the biggest nincompoop of the news. In the news.
And during December, we'll call it the cotton-headed ninny muffin mugging.
You don't want to be a cotton-headed ninny muffin.
Ninny mugging. I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
What were they drinking down in the mailroom? It's probably peach schnapps or peppermint schnapps.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking
About holiday season, peppermint schnapps.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. That's what I always assume. That's what they were drinking down there. They were having a good time down there in the mailroom. So we'll do that at 5:35. That will start at the beginning of the year, but a little getting to know you. So I'm very late. I apologize. My first day on the job, I don't know what to do. It's 3:33. It's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Chance for strong storms. Details during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Here in Tennessee, one person's dead after a stabbing at a Kroger Delta distribution center in Memphis. One person being detained by police. Bad news in East Tennessee, where the Morgan Olson manufacturing plant in Loudoun County notifying state officials it plans to lay off 250 workers starting February 11th. And it's taking longer to land a job, according to data from the latest unemployment report. Here's Brian Clark.
The number of new jobless claims went down by 1,000 last week to 219,000, according to the Labor Department's weekly report. But continuing claims, the total number of Americans collecting benefits increased to 1.91 million, the most since November of 2021. That number suggests that people out of work are having a harder time finding a new position.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Only problem I see on the interstates right now is 24 westbound near Bell Road. You got the right two lanes blocked by a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 38 minutes after the hour. Thank you for being around with us. My name is Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Show from now until the end of time. It is December 26th. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything is going good in your life, and hope that Santa Claus brought you everything that you wanted for the Christmas holiday. We'll bring you news and information, hopefully entertainment as well, up until 7 o'clock with Mark Levin and the Mark Levin Show this evening. So, Joe Biden. In 2019, when Joe Biden declared, I don't think it was 2018. I don't believe that he got in that early. I think it was in the 2019 timeframe where he said that he was running for president of the United States. And at that time, I distinctly recall, and I'm certain that Phil and Brian Wilson, Dan Mandis, and the rest on Super Talk, I was doing it in Birmingham, Alabama at the time. I mean, at the time, we said, this guy's too old. This guy has lost a step or two. He does not seem to be able to formulate his sentences in a manner that would be consistent with someone that I think has the mental acuity to be president of the United States. This is in 2019. And it only got worse through 2020. And there are so many different reasons that we could discuss as to why and how Joe Biden became the president of the United States of America, or, as it were, the resident of the United States of America. But for those of us with brains in our heads and eyes in our heads, we would watch what was happening. And I said over the course of his 4 years as president of the United States, and this is not, there are plenty of reasons for me to cast aspersions against Joe Biden. There are plenty of reasons why Joe Biden is a horrible human being. His age is not necessarily one of them. But at the same time, I challenged folks to understand this. The moments that you see him on television, the moments that you see him behind a podium, the moments you see him communicating with, the moments that he's on camera, that's the best he's going to be that day, I said. From 2020 to 2021, 2022, all along. The best that you're going to get out of Joe Biden are those times that he is on camera, and they know exactly when he's going to be on camera. So the 4 or 5 minutes that you see him, I said, in 2022 or 2023, the 4 or 5 moments out of any given day that we catch a glimpse of him, that's the best he is that day. And, you know, many in the MSM, the mainstream media, oh, they poo-pooed it. Oh, you're being ridiculous. Oh, you're being absurd. All of it was true, folks. As bad as you think it's been that bad and perhaps worse. It is true that the best you would see of him was the State of the Union address. The best that you would see of him is a moment in time where he's answering questions and he's discombobulated and he doesn't seem to know where he is or what he's doing. if you or I had attempted to do some of what has happened to Joe Biden to our own parents, there would be people in our lives that would challenge us on that. There would be people in our lives that would suggest that what is happening is elder abuse. And it's exactly what happened. And they tried to do it again. They tried to run him again. A Wall Street Journal report came out last week. Many of you perhaps have seen it or you've heard it discussed, detailing insider information throughout the White House, throughout Washington, D.C., and throughout media circles that clearly define that those that have the job to inform the United States of America as to what is going on with our government failed in that responsibility, and they did so intentionally. And I am wondering at what point we're going to hold any of these folks to account. Obviously, Jill Biden is front and center as someone who engaged in this type of elder abuse. Obviously. But there is far more blame to go along and to go around. Whether it is Karine Jean-Pierre, whether it is all of the inner circle within Camp Biden, from the lowliest staff member to the highest ranking official in that administration, there's culpability. And some of you might be saying on this day after Christmas, well, Matt Murphy, at this point, what does it matter? Thankfully, he will no longer be president of the United States. Well, he's president today. He's president tomorrow, whether he knows it or not. The idea that this man could not formulate sentences, the idea, and it was presented, that he forced Gold Star families to wait after the disastrous withdrawal out of Afghanistan that led to the death of 13 military members. Their families were awaiting their arrival in Washington, or just outside of Washington, D.C., and they were forced to wait even longer because Joe Biden was taking a nap. You know, that's the day that he kept looking at his watch. You know, got to get back to that nap. Once again, there are many, 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 many reasons to have anger and perhaps even hatred in your heart for Joe Biden because of the manner in which they have abused our American government. I don't throw that word around lightly. Joe Biden and the Biden family used the American people and our government for their own personal benefit and gain. And they have shielded themselves from prosecution or persecution with the same government that they bilked, or at least used to bilk money. And there was a time not too long ago when I couldn't say these types of things for fear of reprisal. So commentators on platforms like talk radio would be threatened not by Joe Biden and the camp that is in D.C. so much, but through our own employers. And I don't begrudge our employers. I'm not knocking Cumulus Nashville or Cumulus Media at large, but they would use the weight of the government and the weight of the Biden administration to influence the manner in which we were reporting on these things. And the individuals in their inner circle, they were kind of a don't ask, a don't tell zone. In the meantime, America is at risk. And that's where I circle back to it mattering. He's an old man. He's not thought of now, much less will he be thought of, certainly not fondly, through the years that go by in the aftermath of the Biden administration. I truly believe that he will be looked at as an absolute mistake, and I believe the history that will be written will be truthful in as much as COVID was used either intentionally or unintentionally, and I think some of the history remains murky. I still lean more toward intentionally nowadays than I ever have. I've always believed that it was an unintentional release, at least intentional at worst. And now I'm beginning to believe that it was intentional in order to get Donald Trump out of the White House. All of that to say, Joe Biden will not be thought of fondly in the history books as a president. I mean, sad to say, and I said this on social media when I was on break, Joe Biden signed a bill into law a couple of days ago that made the American bald eagle our official national bird. And some of you are saying, well, didn't that happen kind of a while back? No, actually, it hasn't. While the bald eagle has been our unofficial national symbol for a long, long time, the bald eagle was never made our official national bird. Now, frankly, I think the official national bird of the United States of America should be the chicken, but whatever. I can give you my dramatic reasons why. I mean, what fowl has done more for the United States of America than the good old yard bird, right? That said, Joe Biden signs this into law, making the bald eagle. And I said, how sad is it that doing something in a ceremonial fashion that will have no consequence on any of our lives and will mean nothing to any of us has immediately become the signature achievement of the Biden administration over the last 4 years? I mean, tell me something that is more important or better. So one could easily argue, and I can understand the argument, that the Biden administration should be ultimately left alone. If there's any wrongdoing or malfeasance discovered in the course of the transition between Biden and Donald Trump coming back into office, then you have to follow up on that. You have to take that where it leads you. But otherwise, he's an old man. He doesn't remember he couldn't find his butt with a flashlight and a compass. Why go after him? I don't necessarily think that you should go after him for those reasons, but I do believe that there need to be answers about what the mainstream media knew and when they knew it. What did the administration know and when did they know it? What did the higher-ups know in the Pentagon, in the Department of Defense, within his cabinet? What did Kamala Harris know and what levels did they take? How far did they go to cover all of this up from the American people? The elected president of the United States of America, Joseph R. Biden, did not have the mental ability to act as president. He was functionally unable to be president of the United States during major portions of his presidency. And no one's going to answer to that. We're just going to let that one go. We're just going to let it slide. That we were consistently lied to by the government of the United States of America. And that major portions of our mainstream media were complicit in this lie, putting the United States of America at grave or great risk, at least great risk. And no one's going to answer to that. It's a little difficult to swallow. Democrats have done this since I have been involved in politics. They use the power of their position to shield themselves from investigation. And when they lose the power of that position, all the mainstream media and the Democrat, oh, Murphy, let's let bygones be bygones. We need to move forward. We don't need to go backwards. What are you doing? I remember this on a couple of occasions in my former adopted home state of Alabama. I can give you some of those examples where they shield themselves from the investigation. And then once they're out of office, they say, oh, that's old news. They're out of office. Let's move forward. Let's focus forward. No, let's investigate the wrongdoing that happened and see if anybody broke the law. Now that they do not enjoy the trappings of the office that they not only abused, but they used to prevent themselves from being investigated to begin with. Well, thankfully, in 25 days, we don't have to worry about this much anymore. It's 51 after the hour. We'll get to some of your calls momentarily. Daniel, you'll be first. Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A deadly workplace stabbing in Tennessee. Also, hundreds of layoffs coming at a Tennessee manufacturing plant at a time when data shows workers are having a difficult time finding new jobs. Coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Also, just after 4 o'clock, our first edition of Getting to Know You on the brand new Matt Murphy Show. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll ask a few questions. Maybe Ken Weaver will ask a few questions. Maybe Chris Weber will ask some questions. I've decided that you guys are allowed a question, too. I think that makes it more of a robust dynamic because I don't need to know all the questions that are coming. Maybe you can fill us in on some. You think? Yeah.
I'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes down. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. We will... I'll tell you what, let's get to Daniel real quick on the phones, and we'll get into that Getting to Know You segment coming up in just a moment on this 26th, the day of December. Merry Christmas, Daniel. How are you?
Hey, Mr. Murphy, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope
sir.
Santa Claus put something good in your stocking for you.
Oh, yeah.
My question is, when Trump was, running his political platform, he made the statement about not taxing on the waitresses and tips and getting rid of the tax on overtime pay. Is that something that he was just saying to get into office, or do you think he's going to follow through with it? And if so, when can we maybe kind of expect this to happen?
No, I don't know of anything that Donald Trump talked about during his first term or during the campaign before his first term in office between 2017 and 2021. I don't know of anything, Daniel, that he did not attempt to follow up on. So I believe that all of this is on the table, and I believe when he talks about these things, he means them. The Congress has something to say about it, however, and Donald Trump has an opportunity to push some of these things through the Congress because obviously you have to have certain congressional approval when it comes to tax matters, and then it has to originate from the House of Representatives. But I think Donald Trump has every intention of trying to follow up on some of these things.
Okay, well, that's good information.
Yeah.
I want to comment on what you're talking about Biden, about them kind of using him as a ruse.
Mm-hmm.
He's also going to be their excuse whenever all this comes out in the next couple of years as to why this was such a sham of an administration. They're going to pin him as the scapegoat for all that. That's why they've still got him around.
One of the reasons why they tried to buy so many votes, one of the reasons why they pushed as far as they did and lurched as far as they did to the left on whatever issue you want to name, whether it's immigration, foreign policy, domestic, forgiving student debt loans, allowing illegals into the country, whatever issue it might be, they lurched left because they knew when the chickens came home to roost, they could blame Biden. That's exactly right. It is 59 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One down and 3 to go on Super Talk.
It's 4 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we are under risk for severe weather this weekend. Tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Violence in the workplace in Tennessee. A stabbing at a Kroger distribution center this morning in Memphis. One person died, another person detained by police. Kroger out with a statement saying it is saddened. Condolences to all impacted, and that counseling services are being provided for its workers there. It's another busy holiday travel day at the nation's airports today. So far, so good, with one big exception. We get details from ABC's Mola Lingay at Denver International.
About 20% of Dallas's flights have been canceled. They've been experiencing delays, about 400 cancellations in all. And of course, we know that Dallas flies to and connects to so many airports across the country. So certainly seeing a ripple effect stemming from those cancellations and those delays.
Here in Nashville, BNA says today and tomorrow will be the airport's busiest days ever. Bad news in East Tennessee. 250 people going to be getting laid off from a manufacturing plant in Loudoun County. Morgan Olson notified state officials earlier this month it's going to start the layoffs on February 11th. This Michigan-based company makes walk-in vans. It employs 600 people over there in Loudoun County. The latest unemployment snapshot suggests some people are having a difficult time finding new jobs once they file for unemployment benefits. Here's ABC's Brian Clark.
The Labor Department's weekly jobs numbers show the highest number of people collecting unemployment benefits since November of 2021. That number, 1.91 million for the week of December 14th, was up by 46,000 from the last reading. But new jobless claims went down by 1,000. The 4-week average sits at 226,500. Economists say it's a sign of a broadly healthy labor market.
Some folks in Nashville woke up to find their cars potentially submerged due to a series of water main breaks. This man telling Channel 4 what it looked like at the Ludlow Condominium Complex parking garage in North Nashville.
It's going to be a bad day after Christmas for a lot of people. There's multiple cars that are flooded. It's halfway up the car doors. I saw at least one Tesla. I believe there's a Vet down there, a couple Mercedes, and my girlfriend's Toyota.
Spokesperson for Metro Water Services said all of the breaks are weather-related, caused by temperature change, ground moisture, and ground shifting. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Right now, Laverne got a crash blocking the left lane, 24 westbound, right before Old Hickory Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, at the risk of sounding like a misogynist, I like it better without the chick in there. What do you guys think? Hey, it's Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show. There's Chris Webber. There's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom, News Closet B. And I'm here until 7 o'clock tonight, or at least until they pull me off the radio, whichever comes first. Thank you for being around on this day after Christmas. Hope everyone had a wonderful and Merry Christmas. Hope you were able to spend time with family and friends. Hope you're still off, frankly. Hope you've got a couple of days for rest and relaxation. I was off for the better part of a week before getting back to it on this December 26th. We've lots to get into, and we'll continue the discussion. In a moment, we're going to play a little game called Getting to Know You. That's coming up in just a second. Before I ask that question, I ask this question. I was not in the state. I've been out of state for the last better part of a week. Did anybody see the satellite that was breaking up across the state of Tennessee? Has anybody heard about this?
I saw it.
Did you see it, Weaver?
I saw it and I heard about it. Now, no, I didn't see it personally. I saw it on X.
Okay.
People reposting it.
But that came right across Tennessee, didn't it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. That would be something to say. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I saw that in the sky. It was supposedly a decommissioned satellite, Chinese satellite, from what we understand, that was allowed to eventually descend and get back into the atmosphere of the Earth where it burned up. And for the most part, we are told that these things burn up long before they hit planet Earth. That's what we're told, at least. I don't know if it's true or not. These things happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
But considering that, the Earth is 70% water, somewhere around in that vicinity. For the most part, they land over water, but it happens quite a lot, just not over the state of Tennessee. And on the heels of all of that drone talk,
Yeah.
a little scary,
a little bit,
a little frightening.
Well, did you see all the drones up over Knoxville?
I did not.
Yeah, apparently there was a Christmas Eve. There was quite the display of what people were taking photos of and what looked to be dozens of drones.
So these were unknown drones? Nobody knew why they were there?
All I saw were the pictures and people saying, "Oh, my word."
Well, I need to get some skinny on that if that's the case, if we've got them over the state of Tennessee. Y'all better watch out over the state of Tennessee. We're not New Jersey. We'll shoot those things. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Something over my house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take evasive action. But if anyone saw, I'm just very curious if anyone laid eyeballs on the descending satellite, which apparently officials knew that this thing was coming, and there were a lot of videos that were taken of it. It was a big old fireball in the sky. Give us a holler, 615-737-9986. Okay, so I tried this when I first came to the state of Tennessee, and it went over like a lead balloon. I mean, it was awful. It went over like poot in a car, right? So I thought, well, why not do it again?
Yeah.
Why not try it again? It can't be as bad as it was the first time.
Second time's a charm.
Second time, we'll hit a home run with it, and we're calling the segment "Getting to Know You." You see that? And just on a personal level. Not about politics necessarily, but just about you and about me.
Yeah.
And the way we do this is through questions. And Ken Weaver, Chris Webber, you guys are invited to have your own questions. I've prepared a few that I think will help me get to know you, help you get to know me, and help the audience get to know all of us.
So are you going to answer your questions as well?
I can answer my own questions.
Okay. Well, I just wondered.
If you so desire.
All right.
The first one that came to mind yesterday being Christmas Day, Ken Weaver, I'll allow for you to go first.
Okay.
What was your favorite Christmas gift you ever received?
Favorite Christmas gift I ever received was an electric football game. Even though only two of the players would go forward. And I got the Chiefs because they looked the closest like the Oklahoma Sooners.
Uh-huh.
And they could kick 60-yard field goals. Of course, right now the Sooners can't do anything.
Would you prefer to see the electric football version on the field?
Yes, sir.
Was this one of those that you plugged in and everybody jiggled?
Yeah, you plugged it in and you had a card. Exactly.
Right.
And you had a cardboard stadium, like that faced you. Looked like a bunch of people in the crowd, and you had a little brown fuzzy football that you would put in one of the little plastic players' arms, and it'd run it. It would run for about 3 seconds because if the opposing plastic player touches your player, well, then he's down. And then it takes 10 minutes to set them all back up again.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, because at the time, Oklahoma was running the wishbone. So I had to put them up, 7 offensive linemen and then 4 backs. And only one of them would go forward.
Could you pass, though? Could you pass?
I never figured out the passing thing.
I don't know how that would work.
I don't either.
Because
so,
they can't. Yeah.
You would set them up. See, I had friends that had this game, and it looked very confusing even when I was a kid.
I don't think I ever saw one in the flesh.
In person. Yeah. But you would set them up, and so the idea, Ken, is that your runner could go as long as he would go until an opposing team little guy touched him.
Yes, sir.
Huh.
Yeah.
So what if he ran backwards into your own end zone?
That's whenever I would throw it. And get real angry.
Chris Webber, what was your favorite Christmas game?
My favorite one, and it's funny you asked this. We talked about this week or so ago on the drive. But yeah, and I happened to just think of it at the last minute. My favorite, and this is a hands down to me. I'd forgotten that I got this, but I got a Sears and Roebuck stereo system, and it was like a double tape deck with a turntable,
yes, sir,
and a couple of speakers, and then I also got a microphone because I had a microphone jack on it.
Yeah.
And so I would sit there and I would record music off of the radio. It had a tuner in it as well. I would record songs off the local rock station, and then I would DJ over, the intros and
that's so
talk
cool.
about. That's how I spent my time. I loved it. And it kills me because I do not have any of the cassette tapes of me doing it anymore. I probably recorded over them with other stuff when I got into my teen years. But
oh, that sounds so cool.
But yeah, I used to play disc jockey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably got something to do with how I ended up in the job I'm doing right now.
Maybe so. I never had the microphone feature, but I remember when you get the double tape deck and you can record off on one, and so you could dub a tape.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you could yell at the DJs. You're listening to the radio, waiting. And this is such a dated reference. You're waiting for the song that you want to record on the cassette tape. So you've got it on record and play and on pause.
Yep.
And you're just waiting on it. And then the stupid disc jockey would talk over the beginning of the song.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did that a lot.
You gotta hit that post, man.
And they always talk like this.
Oh, yeah. So, I remember be careful what you wish for, Chris, on these tapes, because I have there is a tape in existence. I will not say where it is. It is in a top secret location where I was I got my job at WTHO, WTWA when I was 15. So about 16, 17, when I was starting to date with a fair amount of regularity, I started making mixtapes. But these were professionally done mixtapes because I could go into the prod rooms where they had turntables and I could blend and I would be the DJ.
Yeah.
And so I would say, oh, that's, whatever it was, Prince or whatever song I was trying to woo a girl with. And now here's, the next thing. And I would bleed right into it. And I found one of those tapes and it is awful. It is so bad. It is so bad. Not only was I not very good at the DJ thing, I was also not very good at wooing women.
It just reminded you of your failed attempts, right?
Yeah. Here's Louis Jordan, Saturday Night Fish Fry. Enjoy that. I mean, the ladies love
the ladies.
Stuff.
Yeah,
that'll get them. That'll give them. My favorite was my grandpa had me convinced. Sean Gill was getting a new motorcycle, and this was like in August or September. And I asked my grandpa. He had an older motorcycle. This is when I was 12 years old. It was a Honda CR80 that he was selling pretty cheap because we weren't, we didn't have any money. And I asked my grandpa, and he goes, "No, those things will hurt you. You can't have one of those." And he had convinced me that was off limits. Motorcycles were off limits for our family. And he managed to get me one for Christmas and hide it until Christmas morning.
Wow.
And I was 12 years old, and I had checked the entirety of the property because, I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
But I had checked it all, and it wasn't on property. In no back shed, in no back room, nowhere was there a motorcycle on property. So I was like, well, I'm not getting a motorcycle. And then there it is, Christmas morning. My grandpa fired it up and rode it from Mr. Ed Neal's shop over to the backyard
that's
in
a good
Thompson.
All right.
It was great.
Man.
Absolutely fabulous.
I got teased one time. I don't know how the conversation came up. I don't remember if it was a dirt bike or if it was a four-wheeler. But there was a conversation between my parents at one point about getting me one, and I was present for it. I don't know if I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was shot down. I was crushed. Crushed.
That's tough. That's a tough one. All right, we're playing a game called Getting to Know You.
Oh, we're gonna do that again?
Yeah. That's the hook. Hook of the bit. My question number 2, and then I'll let these two fellas if they have any questions. My question number 2. Well, I have 2 more actually. I thought about the horror movie. What is the fastest you've ever been in an automobile? Fastest you've ever been in a car?
Probably like a 130 something.
That's fast.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And I was not driving. I was a passenger. And I was probably 13 or 14. There's this guy, and he thought he was an Australian fella.
Uh-huh.
And he had a Camaro. And he wanted to show me what it could do.
And he did.
And he did.
I presume.
Yeah.
On the street?
Yes.
Obviously?
Yes.
Okay. Weaver, what about you?
I-35.
Okay.
Just south of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
I had a big old car. I don't even know what it was, but it was just a big old boat of a car. And I opened that thing up. I got up to about 115, I think. It wasn't digital, of course. It was just a little needle, and it started shaking violently. And I shut it down real fast then. But man, that thing would go. It was just slowly climbing. And then it started shaking.
And I bet every time you hit a little dip, it would kind of just.
Yeah, it would just kind of.
Yeah.
And my face was kind of going, like that.
You reminded me, my father-in-law and I did this thing. This is years and years ago. We were traveling out to Roswell, New Mexico on, I guess was it 20? I guess that's 20. And we were in a Pacifica minivan kind of deal.
That's a speed demon.
And, well, he had a new Garmin. And this is back in the days where you needed a Garmin in your car.
Mm-hmm.
And Garmin had top speed on it. And understand, we had 2 females in the back seat that didn't want us to go fast at all.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
Yeah.
So we would trade off driving, and invariably when he was driving, I'd fall asleep, and when I was driving, he'd fall asleep. But we both wanted to be the guy to get the top speed on the Garmin.
Yeah.
So, you're in traffic, you're in city traffic, you get it up to 88, and it measures that. And then, 3 hours later, I look, and he's gotten it up to 93, and it measures that. And then I push it to 98, and I get screamed at from the back saying, "What are you going so fast for?" And so we passed a point in Texas. I call it where Texas turns brown out there. That about halfway through Texas past Dallas, everything just goes brown, and you get into New Mexico where everything's flat and straight. And I fall asleep, and I wake back up, and everybody's asleep. The back seat's asleep. I'm asleep. And I look over at Bob, and then I look at the Garmin, and the Garmin says 122. And I didn't say a word. I just looked at Bob, and Bob said, "That's as fast as it will go." But I got to go on Talladega Superspeedway, the big track.
Oh, yeah.
In one of those NASCAR rigs. And they said that we were going 170. There are no speedometers in there, but that's what they said that I was driving. But that's a different deal altogether.
I bet it felt like you were going. Did it feel like you were going faster or not?
No, because the track is so huge and we were by ourselves.
Yeah.
I imagine that you would have the only time you got that sensation when you're going toward the corners, it looks like you're about to hit a concrete brick wall, and then it just slings you up there onto the corner. But the only time you got the sensation is if you looked out the window to your left.
Oh yeah,
and then it would make you want to throw up, and so you just immediately look back straight. But as long as you were looking straight, you were fine.
Yeah,
you're fine. All right, real quick, the most scary movie you've ever watched?
Hereditary.
I've never seen Hereditary, but I've heard that that's a good one.
One sound for you.
I don't know what that means.
Watch it.
I guess I've never seen that one.
Wait for that sound.
That's freaky.
Yeah, it is.
I'll have to check that one out.
My question is inspired by my viewing of a film over the Christmas holiday called The Poughkeepsie Tapes.
The Poughkeepsie Tapes.
I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. It is disturbing in concept and in execution. It is about a serial killer that gets away with it, and it's like found footage stuff.
No, sir.
But it is so realistic in its found footage. I don't know. Halfway through, I'm like, why am I not turning this thing off? And I just sat there and watched the rest of it, and it was very, very disturbing. And I'm thinking, why? This is the grossest, most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to watch it now. Just to see. You know?
I want somebody else to have seen it just so I can confirm that it was as bad as all of that.
All right.
But it was so bad that at first they were going to put it out in theaters. They decided not to put it out in theaters. And it's one of those like underground films now, the Poughkeepsie tapes. Pretty bad about a serial killer. What about you, Weber?
The only thing I can really think of where I was just slightly disturbed is, and I was an adult, it was a movie called 13 Ghosts. It was probably early 2000s it was released.
Yeah.
There were some creatures in that movie that really just kind of gave me the creeps. And I don't know why. I usually have no, horror movies, I'm not a big fraidy cat sort of. I like them. I can get with it.
Okay.
But there was some in there that just kind of gave me the willies a little bit. There was a lot of different types of horror creatures in this movie.
The poster is pretty freaky.
Yeah.
I don't like the poster at all. I never liked horror movies when I was younger, and I'm starting to like them more as I get older. Like, I always hated jump scares. I don't mind jump scares so much anymore.
Yeah.
That kind of psychological stuff, I don't mind so much anymore, and I'm getting into it. But if you're into that kind of thing, watch the Poughkeepsie tapes and tell me that I'm not crazy.
All right.
And it's pretty
See,
check it out.
I don't like I don't like torture and stuff like that.
And see
I can't do that.
That's what it was. It was, and it's bad. I mean, I'm talking. This is not good horror. This is bad horror. Do not watch it. Do not. I'm telling you, do not unless your name is Chris Webber. Do not under any circumstances watch this film. I do not recommend it, and I don't know why I watched all of it, but I did. So there you go.
You lived to tell the tale.
I lived to tell it. That's true. And thankfully, none of that was true. They presented it like it was true. It was like one of those Blair Witch Project type deals. Yeah. 23 after the hour. That's how we play Getting to Know You. We'll do this a little bit as we get to know the afternoon audience on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Deadly workplace shooting and the flu and whooping cough taking a toll in Tennessee. These stories and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, indeed. 27 minutes after the hour right now, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. And this is the Matt Murphy Show, a little soft open during the Christmas holiday week. We'll get things cranked up, lumbering under our own weight by 2025 or thereabouts. Thank you for being around with us. If you want to participate, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. You can also jump on the Super Text line. A lot of you responding to the Getting to Know You segment, offering your thoughts about the scariest movies around and the fastest you've ever driven and your favorite holiday gifts. And that's my favorite one, listening to some of you regale us with, you're 10, you're 9, you're 7, you're whatever age you might be. And I mean, for most of us, it's when you're a kid. I mean, maybe it's not, maybe for you it's as an adult, but thank you for indulging us. We'll do a little of that as we get to know the afternoon audience on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Also, learning a little more about the priorities for the Trump administration in 25 mere days. We talked about Joe Biden, and I mean, his approval rating is now down to 34%, and I can't imagine why it would be 34%. You feel like that's the floor, right? That it can't go any lower. Donald Trump's approval rating has never been higher. Donald Trump's approval rating is well in the 50s. I think I saw it last week at 55%, and one would have to presume that that's a lot of anticipation for Donald Trump to get into office and to make things happen. There can only be one president at a time, and I think it's a nice little Christmas present that Joe Biden has gone off to the U.S. Virgin Islands for the next several days, squeeze a few more dollars out of the taxpayers, go on another vacation. Do you know that, by the way, by percentage, Joe Biden's approval rating is 34%. The percentage of the days that he's been in office on vacation is 40%. Y'all see the parallel there? 34%, which you feel like is the floor, of Americans believe that Joe Biden is doing a job that they can say they approve of. 40% of his time in office, he's been on vacation. 40%. Now, I understand that wherever the president goes, the presidency goes with him. I get that. But does anyone actually believe that Joe Biden is focusing himself on the presidency when he's on the beach at the U.S. Virgin Islands or Rehoboth Beach or wherever the hell he's been for the last 4 years? It's ridiculous. A lot of anticipation that Donald Trump in 25 days is going to take things over and get to work. And I'm curious what you specifically want to see happen first. Now, some of these matters have to be handled by the Congress of the United States, which is going to take a little time as they'll be fulfilling their duties to advise and consent in the Senate for the first month or so of the new administration. But we'll get into, in a moment after Ken Weaver's newscast, what exactly we want the priorities to be, because there are a few things that Donald Trump can handle immediately. And I believe that these are the matters that are most scary to the liberal Democrats, because you will see how truly fast things can get done, even in Washington, D.C. We'll discuss next. It's 30 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the potential for some strong to severe weather on the way. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. We're monitoring reports out of Memphis about a workplace stabbing. One person died, another person detained there at the Kroger Delta Distribution Center. Kroger issuing a statement this morning saying it's saddened and is in contact with the deceased employee's family, offering condolences to all impacted and counseling services too. Vanderbilt University Medical Center says its emergency room is packed with people who have the flu. Cases are at the highest level Tennessee has seen so far this season. Here's Channel 4's Dryden Quigley.
With many primary care doctors closed for the holidays, Vanderbilt says people are flooding their clinics and emergency room with cases of the flu and other respiratory diseases. According to the CDC, Tennessee is now in the red, meaning it's one of the worst states in America for flu transmission.
The Clarksville Walmart, where two people had a shootout, has reopened. That's the Fort Campbell Boulevard store. On Christmas Eve, police say a 19-year-old and another man got into an argument. Well, the 19-year-old apparently showed the man a gun, who pulled his gun and fired in self-defense. That teenager facing aggravated assault charges and will be jailed after he gets out of the hospital. A pet food recall over bird flu and a death. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
An Oregon house cat died after eating pet food that tested positive for bird flu, says the state veterinarian. It's led to a voluntary recall of the 2-pound package of feline turkey recipe raw frozen pet food. It's sold nationwide and in Canada's British Columbia, made by Northwest Naturals, based in Portland, Oregon. The state veterinarian says the cat was strictly an indoor cat and it was not exposed to the virus in its environment. Plus, genome sequence testing confirmed the virus was in the pet food.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Progressive Insurance offers a great price and round-the-clock protection when bundling home and auto. It's one of those rare times where you could save money and get something great. Bundle today at Progressive.com. That's Progressive.com.
From the United Structural Systems WTN Traffic Center.
Right now, the interstates are clear except for 24 westbound in Laverne. You got a crash that's blocking the left lane right there before Old Hickory Boulevard South. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If you have noticed a couple of bugs during the holiday season in and around your home, don't just chalk it up to extra food or, a lot of doorways opening and closing. Let's handle this situation with U.S. Pest. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and J.K. and Erica Brister took over U.S. Pest years ago and swiftly made it the finest pest control company throughout Middle Tennessee, throughout the entire state, in my opinion. Protection begins with U.S. Pest. They start with their purpose. Their basic mission statement is to prevent insect and rodents within your home because they bring with them nastiness and disease. They offer full-service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service, all 100% money-back guaranteed. And it's time to get the best in your home to protect you and your family and to make sure that your health is your number one priority. If you've noticed these creepy they try to come in during the wintertime months, folks. They try to take advantage of your food and your warmth. Let's stop it with U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com or call them at 590-1260. 615-590-1260. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to U.S. Pest.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. It's the Murphy Show until 7 o'clock tonight. We're cranking it up the day after Christmas. You're invited, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Thank you for being out there on your FM radio dial, 99.7 FM. Of course, you can also find us anywhere you stream news or information, music. You can stream us. Just type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN. And then, of course, there's Supertalk TV, which I'm still getting accustomed to after 2 years. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Like and subscribe. We would appreciate that. Just give us the old thumbs up over there. It would mean the world to us. Yes, I have plenty to say about Matt Gaetz. Yes, I have plenty to say about Mike Johnson. Yes, I have plenty to say about the incoming Trump administration. What I want to know from you is it as easy as this? Maybe it's a bad question to ask because I feel like most of you will respond in the same fashion, and that is the first thing you expect from Donald J. Trump is that he closes down the southern border, which is a little more difficult than you might expect in as much as he needs to reallocate money back to the purpose that our Border Patrol was originally designed to accomplish, and that is to prevent individuals from illegally moving from point A to point B and illegally coming into the United States of America. We have, and I've long said this, we need to stop all immigration practices for 6 months, all of them. And I don't know that Donald Trump I would suggest that he constitutionally would have the authority to declare a state of emergency and to put a moratorium on all immigration into the United States of America for 6 months. It would be challenged, and, that's just how the American system works. I think it would be worthwhile to do so and withstand the challenges that will soon come by the Democrats, because the Democrats do not value your security as much as they value the ability for illegal aliens to come into the United States of America, right? But I do think for most of us, if we prioritized what we expect first, we expect there to be movement on the southern border because of the illegal alien activity that's been going on unfettered for the last 4 years. There was an editorial in this regard in the LA Times that I want to share with you. The headline of the editorial, "Immigrants are California's lifeblood. They need support now more than ever." Understand something. When they say immigrants, they mean illegal aliens. They will perhaps dispute it. They will lie to you and tell you that's not what they mean. Of course, that's what they mean. If they didn't mean that, they would engage with the rest of us in some common sense ideas as to how best to solve what we currently have as a broken immigration system. In other words, shut down the southern border, make sure we know who's here already, get the illegal alien activity back out of the country, get the ne'er-do-wells and the lawbreakers back out of the country, and then if we need to reform our immigration system, so be it. I want to read some of this to you, and I want to tell you, they get it so wrong. The United States, reads this editorial, has always been a nation of immigrants. And nowhere is that more true today than in California, where first-generation immigrants make up more than 1/4 of the population more than any other state. More than half of California and 62% of LA County is either foreign-born or has at least one immigrant parent, according to the Pew Research Center. Immigrant communities are understandably scared and bracing for the worst when Donald Trump takes office next month. Deporting immigrants is at the very top of the president's 20-point agenda, which promises to, 1, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion, 2, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. The LA Times continues, the incoming administration has pledged to use the military and mass detention camps to deport millions of migrants in the country illegally, along with U.S. citizens in their families. That's not true, by the way. Not true. What the Trump administration has said is that these individuals that are in the United States of America legally have a choice to make. They can either stay here or go with the illegal alien counterparts. With these clouds on the horizon, the editorial breathlessly reads, it's critically important to recognize the role immigrants play in our communities. And then they go on to talk about immigrants have always been the lifeblood of the nation and a source of growth, diversity, and innovation. There are more than 11 million first-generation immigrants in California from all backgrounds and walks of life, from the working and middle class to the highest echelons of society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're working off of this premise, the LA Times is, that America is great because of illegal immigration. I would suppose that's what they're talking about now, but let's just kill the word illegal and talk about immigrants themselves. All right, first and foremost, every nation in modern society is a nation of immigrants. Every one of them. I mean, unless you're living in the birthplace of humanity somewhere in and around northern Africa or the Middle East, I guess. And I suppose we're talking more on the continent of Africa and maybe Southeast Asia. Everywhere there are people, there are immigrants. So I've long heard this line about, what, we're a nation that is built on immigration. Well, every nation's built on immigration. There are immigrants in every country. Every person on earth is from somewhere else, with almost no exception. Almost no exception. I also want to push back on this narrative that the political left has created that our country is great because of immigrants. Now, there's no question that many immigrants that have come to the United States of America over decades and centuries, that they have made America more of a melting pot and, by extension, have made America a better place. There are plenty of examples of individuals and of groups that have come into the United States of America and made America better as a result. But America's greatness isn't because of the immigrants. The immigrants come because of the American greatness. America has, this concept of, quote, America has always been a nation of immigrants, is a narrative that suggests that America is great because of the immigrants. America is great, and that is why the immigrants come. Because we are the shining city on the hill. We demonstrate the best opportunity globally for you to maximize your value, your worth, and to benefit from the fruit of one's own labor. Freedom will do that in a society. Free markets will do that in a society. So, embedded in this concept of America is a nation of immigrants and we are great because of our immigrants is a thought process that we must continue to allow immigration to flow into the United States. Now, I'm not one to suggest that we should not have some common sense immigration policy. But common sense immigration policy should always and forever be predicated on what is best for our country and our nation's people, should it not? These are just basic concepts here. We should not consider the migrant first and America second. For to do that is to ensure that America loses its greatness. We lose our specialness around the world. One of the reasons that we can't simply fly our doors open and allow everyone that wants to come here is because if we did that, we would not be a place that people would want to come to very long. I don't understand why this is so difficult for liberals to understand. I don't understand why it's so difficult for the LA Times to get that concept. That if you allowed anyone and everyone into your country that wanted to be in your country to enjoy the largesse of the free market and the systems that we have put into place guaranteeing the freedoms and liberties of the people that live here, if you allowed everybody to flood the zone, you would no longer be that place. The only way to make the world better is to, and I'll use this term intentionally, to infect other nations with freedom. To infect other nations with the concept of government serving best as it serves least, to allow the free market to work its magic, to allow capitalism to work as it did for so long in the United States. You have to foster that in other parts of the world. You can't expect that we can lift that heft if everyone came here. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about Javier Milei in Argentina is for this very reason. That Javier Milei has ascended to power, and much like, and I'm going to make the comparison, George Washington before him, he recognized that his power rested in the people, not in the government. And that it was so important to push back power to the people themselves and away from the centralized government that had seized it and had nearly ruined that country. And Javier Milei just announced a couple of days ago that he's going to reduce taxes in that country by 90%. Because he understands in doing so, he's going to better the lives of the citizens of Argentina as a result. That is promoting growth. That's infecting the rest of the world with liberty. That's the only way this works. All the boats don't rise if everyone gets in them. They sink. So, of course, for most of us, first and foremost on our lips is a solution in 2025 to our broken border system, which will ultimately lead to the deportation of those who do not belong, who aren't supposed to be here, who did not walk through the process. And then if you want to talk about fixing the process, I'm fine with that too. Because I recognize that we need some common sense immigration so long as it makes America a better place to live. But stop it with this nonsense that America is only great because of the immigrants that have come here. The immigrants come here because of America's greatness. It's the other way around. It's 51 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and The Matt Murphy Show.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A deadly workplace stabbing in Tennessee. Also, hundreds of layoffs announced in Tennessee. This will be an auto manufacturing facility. We'll tell you about it at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's a bummer during the holidays. But you know what? The news, there's going to be some bummers. There's going to be some good news as well. I got some good news.
Let's hear it.
I got some good news.
I want to hear it.
You've probably already heard this before, Ken Weaver. You've got all the good stories over there in News Closet B. A Tennessee high school, Middle Tennessee high school, will be heading to Washington, D.C. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yeah, going to play at the inauguration.
The inauguration. Stewart's Creek High School Band. I don't know anything about Stewart's Creek High School, but the band there, selected by the Trump-Vance Inaugural Committee to perform January 20th during the 60th Presidential Inaugural Parade. The school will represent the state as they join other select groups from around the country. How about that?
That's congratulations to the Rutherford County School District.
Nice
There
honor.
you go. I like that. That's Rutherford County.
That's Rutherford County, yes.
School now calling on residents, alumni, businesses who wish to support the band to donate via fundraiser to cover the cost of the trip. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Those interested can go to supportschsband.com. You can also contact the school at stewartscreekband@gmail.com. We need to make sure that they're treated right and sent off the right way. I don't know how we do that, but give if you can, 10 or 15 or 20 bucks, because most of those band expenses are paid for by the old band boosters. Remember the old band boosters back in the day?
And the parents.
Well, the parents.
Yeah.
Do you have you have a child of age band? He's
theater.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So yeah, I never did. I was never musically inclined. Couldn't do band.
I actually was in band for 1 year, and I hated that I gave it up after my junior year of high school. Played the trombone.
The trombone.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's the one with the big slide, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's trombone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked it too.
Why'd you give it up?
Long story short, it was for a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in this class on my senior year with her. Funny thing is, I got in that class and then she did not. So it was all,
It was all meant to be. It was all. Well, what about? I'd like to see Chris Webber pick up the old trombone again and see what he could do with it.
I thought about it recently. I was watching something that was it was one of the football games from the other day. I was watching the marching band and saw a trombone playing. I thought I don't even know if I would remember how to play it. I remember reading the sheet music, but I couldn't tell you if I could read it now. I don't really have memory of doing it.
I faked playing the bells for a year in ensemble. I'm not kidding. I would put my thumb on the ball of the bell to make sure
mute it. Yeah.
To mute it because I didn't know what I was doing. And there were like 20 of us, and nobody seemed to notice.
That's pretty good.
That's how
that
bad.
takes a little bit of talent in and of itself.
That's how bad I was musically that I faked it. I also I faked my way through a presentation of the Hallelujah Chorus, Handel's Messiah, Hallelujah Chorus, and all that. I didn't know any of the music, and I just stood there and mouthed the words. I was like 16. It's kind of what I'm doing on today's show, just kind of mouthing words and seeing what happens. I want to see Weber with a trombone in 2025. That would be fun.
Yeah. Might have to pick one up. They're expensive, though.
Trombone Thursdays with Chris Weber on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. We're halfway home. We got some Ken Weaver news, and we'll be back in a moment. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to get involved in this frivolity, it's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Understand some strong to severe storms are on the way. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, a man is dead after getting stabbed at a Kroger distribution center this morning in Memphis. One person detained by police. Kroger out with a statement expressing sadness for its associate, condolences to all impacted, also providing counseling services. In East Tennessee, hundreds of manufacturing jobs going away in Loudoun County. Morgan Olson notifying the state It will lay off 250 workers starting February 11th at its plant that makes walk-in vans. Meanwhile, it seems to be taking longer for Americans to find a job. Here's Brian Clark.
The Labor Department's weekly jobs numbers show the highest number of people collecting unemployment benefits since November of 2021. That number, 1.91 million for the week of December 14th, was up by 46,000 from the last reading. But new jobless claims went down by 1,000. The 4-week average sits at 226,500. Economists say it's a sign of a broadly healthy labor market.
Right now in Nashville, a series of water main breaks this morning, impacting hundreds of Metro Water Services customers. More so for others. Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac says people's cars were partially submerged to the top of their tires at the Ludlow Condominium Complex parking garage in North Nashville.
For some people, waking up to find their cars underwater was only the start. Even getting to the parking garage became difficult.
So we started to go down the stairs to get my girlfriend's car, and we couldn't get down the stairs to get into the garage. The elevator in the building's not working. I'm assuming the motors are flooded. We're just waiting for HOA to do an assessment.
But yeah, this is an absolute nightmare. I've never seen anything like this. It's definitely, it's a headache to deal with.
About 200 customers in the area lost water as Metro Water Services crews work to repair the break.
Yeah, a spokesperson said all of the breaks are weather-related, caused by temperature change, ground moisture, and ground shifting. 4 years since the Christmas Day bombing downtown, more of the area has reopened to traffic. That's the south block of 2nd Avenue, now open to vehicles, with widened sidewalks and safer crosswalks. Construction in the most heavily damaged areas continues, will last for about another year. And for the first time in nearly 20 years, Christmas Day lined up on the first day of Hanukkah. Mayor Freddie O'Connell was in Bellevue to commemorate it during the first lighting of the menorah at the Chabad of Nashville.
I am very lucky. I feel that I'm very lucky that I grew up in a household where I learned the Hanukkah blessing. This is a very special honor because it reflects my childhood, reflects my heritage, and I'm glad to be surrounded by family who carry on the tradition of Judaism.
Now, the Jewish holiday runs through January 2nd, and that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Picked up another crash. This was on the South Loop downtown, heading westbound, right there at 2nd Avenue. And then we still got that one in Laverne. This is blocking the left shoulder now, 24 westbound before Old Hickory Boulevard South. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
With fun, with frivolity, with a little information, maybe some edumacation. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, getting you through the rest of your day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 5. I approved it. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully responsible for it.
You're just second guessing yourself.
I've now heard it twice, and I'm like, this lady doesn't seem like she's having a good time. I don't know. I mean, I'm having a good. Are you having a good time?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. I hope Ken Weaver's. I mean, he's informing, educating, and always having a good time. By the way, there's a robust response. I put our first day of class picture up on my social media platform at the X machine, and somebody said that you looked like you just had your ears lowered, Ken Weaver. I think that means that you just had a hair cut.
Yeah. I cut my hair every week.
Every week.
Yeah, shave it.
Whether it needs it or not.
Well, it does need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the ones on my ears get longer than the ones on my head. So I can't have an anomaly.
Well, that's trouble.
It's got to be even.
As someone asked if that was Chris Webber there in the and I said, yeah.
Who was asking? That's an important question before you answer that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, Cherry Jam on X said this show is going to be lit or gonna be lit.
All right.
Okay. Well, I hope so. Miles W., whose handle is Sturgill fan. So.
Oh, he's got to be all right.
He's got to be an all right guy. I said, I don't think I've ever seen him with short hair. Talking about you. Said, is that Chris Webber? I said, it is. Weaver in the middle. I don't think I've seen him with short hair. And Ken looks like he was ready for his day one photo. His ears look freshly lowered.
Freshly cut.
True that. And then we were told, y'all look like, Bama Mike writes in and says, y'all look like you just broke out of prison.
Bama Mike would know.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure. And then where was one said that we look like lots of gray in those beards. That's correct. Yes, indeed. There's
sadly.
Yeah, sadly so. And then I can't find it, but somebody said that we looked like a bluegrass band, which I don't disagree with that either.
I like that bluegrass.
I'll play the banjo.
But now you play the trombone.
In a bluegrass band?
That'd be something. I'll play the brown jug.
like the Darlings?
Yeah, like Uncle Jesse. Well, that was before he was Uncle Jesse.
Right, but he was Mr. Darling, right?
Yeah.
He was Mr. Darling on Andy Griffith.
He'd say things like, hold on. And then,
oh, don't get me started. That episode where there was only supposed to be one of them checked into the motel room, but there's all of them in the motel room. And so they come and they knock on the door, and like there's clearly an entire band in the room.
Yeah.
And they're playing, and you hear boop, 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 boop. And then when somebody knocks on the door, all of them climb out the window, and it's just the one guy. Boop, boop,
yeah, just Mr. Darling.
Just Mr. Darling. Hey, can I help you? And then here they come back. Well, thank you for all of the interaction. It is our first day of class, official, I guess, soft open, if you will, on the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day from 3 until 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I hope that it pleases most of you. I don't pretend that I will please all of you, but I hope to catch most of you from one time or another. If we're not doing it right, just wait. We'll get better. I promise you that. In the meantime, I just looked this website up, and it is. We were talking about this. The Trump-Vance Inaugural Committee, which was always a difficult word for me to say. See, if I think about it, I can't say it. Inaugural Committee has just informed, they informed the Stewart's Creek High School Band in Rutherford County, according to Ken Weaver, that they've been selected to perform the 60th Presidential Inaugural Parade in Washington, D.C., January 20th. They write on the website, we are honored and excited to receive this invitation and for the opportunity to represent the state of Tennessee on this historic occasion. As you can imagine, there will be considerable travel expenses for our group of 200. That's a big band. Making this special trip in just a few weeks, and it will not be possible without your support. If you're a business or organization willing to sponsor for this endeavor, please contact us, stewartscreekband@gmail.com. And then otherwise, they give you an opportunity to leave your name and a tax-deductible donation. That website, once again, is schsband.com. So for those who want to send our folks off right to Washington, D.C. I'm wondering how many Tennesseans are planning on going to the inauguration. I inquired about it, and New Suit, a.k.a. Paul, our boss, did not seem very impressed with the idea of starting a new afternoon show and then immediately being gone from the new afternoon show. But I don't know. Did Wilson ever talk about going?
He did mention it, yeah. It's a possibility.
Oh, I need to inquire. Maybe we can have our large roving correspondent on the scene. You think he'd be willing to do that? Maybe?
I think he would. Yeah.
I think he would too. So we'll certainly have folks on the ground. I'm curious. I've heard from a number of Tennesseans thinking about going. And look, I don't know what to tell you in terms of contacting your congressman. And all I can be is as honest as the day is long. I can get Desjardins on the phone. I can get Burchett on the phone. I can get Rose on the phone. I can't get Green on the phone. I can't get Ogles on the phone. So if you live in Green or Ogles, what I can tell you is this. The easiest way to get access into some of the inaugural festivities is to contact your congressman. And then if you do so early enough as they release batches of tickets or whatnot, now you can go and be a part of the unticketed masses there on the National Mall during the festivities. There will be certain places you can go, certain places you cannot. But if you want to get into some of there's like 28 balls or something like that. I mean, there is action all week long in Washington, D.C., both before and after the 12 o'clock high noon inaugural festivities there at the Capitol. But if you want to get into some of these ballrooms, into some of the organized activities, the best way to do it is contact your congressman. And if you want to contact Ogles or Green, best of luck. We try to contact them on the regular, and we don't really get any response. Some of the others are more responsive to that level of communication. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti celebrated today, a couple of days ago, after the Biden-Harris administration withdrew proposed changes. I guess this was yesterday, as a matter of fact. Withdrew proposed changes to Title IX, which would have prohibited school and athletic organizations from prohibiting transgender athletes from playing on teams reserved for biological females. You might recall we reported it all day long on Supertalk 99.7 WTN that the White House was proposing a change, and they've now quietly withdrawn that proposal. According to the National Review, which they reported that the Department of Education received more than 150,000 public comments on the proposal before it was shelved. One would expect that the vast majority of these public comments were negative. While the outlet explained, the Biden administration DOE Secretary Miguel Cardona described the rule change as a move against discrimination. The agency acknowledged Friday, quote, in light of the comments received in those various pending court cases, the Department of Education has determined not to regulate on this issue at this time. This is a big win. And the Tennessee Star had a story about it a couple of days ago where Jonathan Skrmetti made a comment. I'll share that comment with you in a moment. But if you recall, the Biden administration was going to gut Title IX to the point that it disallowed prohibiting men from playing on women's sports. Well, what about the sanctity of female athletics? That's the entire purpose of Title IX, was to promote female athletes and female athletics. Obviously, we've talked to Riley Gaines on many occasions about her experience racing against a man in collegiate swimming activities and the aftermath of all of that. And she has taken those very sour lemons and made lemonade with it in terms of advancing an agenda where other girls do not get discriminated against by having to compete against men. And kudos for her. So the Biden administration, in a desperate last-minute effort to try to ram as much of this and change the fabric of the manner in which we live in civilized society, they wanted to force this down the throats of Title IX followers, in as much as if you are male, you will be allowed to, as long as you identify as female, to compete against biological females. The backlash was so great, and congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to the many, many hundreds of thousands of Americans who responded, and obviously they're not saying, they won't, but clearly, overwhelmingly, the response was that this is wrong. I feel the tide turning on this, much like I feel the tide turning on these DEI programs at major corporations, Robbie Starbuck being so influential in that regard. I feel like the tide is turning on this. And I've long said, if you're a grown-up in the United States of America, or anywhere really, but we can only control that which we can control in this country. Nobody cares how you live your life. I mean, I don't. If you want to live a life of your choosing, nobody cares. If you want to run around making videos where you demand, despite clearly being a man, that you get called ma'am, or you demand, despite obviously being female, that people address you as he or him or whatever, that's up to you. And that's, look, I can walk away from it. I don't have to associate with it. And that's up to you. But the idea that you force me to play along with your fantasies is ridiculous. I don't hate on you for them. I wish everyone happiness in their life. Just don't screw around with kids, and don't tell me that basic biology isn't a scientific fact. Don't demand of me through fear of reprisal that I participate in your fantasies. And don't suggest to me that there are not clear and distinct biological differences between men and women. Come on. I mean, we've gotten to the point in this discussion that it just feels foolish. I've long used the example that, did you know the PGA Tour, the Professional Golfers Association? Now, they may have changed it recently because of some of the societal debate that's going on because of all of this woke nonsense. But as of 4 years ago, there was nothing preventing females from being a part of the PGA Tour. Nothing. There's no limitation. The PGA Tour, the Professional Golfers Association, they want the best golfers in the world to participate in their tour. And there was nothing that would prevent females from doing it. As a matter of fact, you might recall some years ago when Annika Sorenstam was at her zenith as the greatest female golfer on planet Earth, she was invited to and accepted an invitation to play at the Colonial, one of the shorter courses on tour. And she accepted the invitation, recognizing that it was one of the shorter courses on tour, because she couldn't possibly, because she played from the same tees, teed them up in the same places as the guys, abided by the same rules as the guys, and played as the guys. On the LPGA Tour, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, there's obviously a restriction preventing men from competing with women. Why? Why is there a restriction on one hand and not a restriction on the other? Well, it's pretty obvious, because men have a biological advantage on average. Does this mean that Matt Murphy, as poor as I am at golf, could go out and beat? Of course I couldn't beat the best women golfers on the planet. I'm not that good of a golfer. But the best men and the best women, put them against one another, and the men are going to win because of the obvious nature of the biological differences, which is what all of us have been saying over the last how many years that we've been debating this nonsense. I feel that the tide has turned. Do you guys feel it? Where now that those woke individuals who are casting this agenda and demanding that the rest of us accept it, now they're starting to affect little Sally and little Cindy, little Megan. Now they're starting to affect the little girls out there. And mamas and daddies are having none of it. According to the department, as I mentioned, a significant number of commentators included discussions of case law, scientific study, research papers, existing athletic association policy, and practices regarding athletic eligibility criteria. Attorney General of our state, Jonathan Skrmetti, noted, the Tennessee's opposition to the rule change. We fought hard to block the Biden administration's illegal Title IX rule change from going into effect and won at every level all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. Kudos. Another piece of good news for you this afternoon at 521 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's the Matt Murphy Show.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
We have learned more about that deadly workplace stabbing in Tennessee this morning, which was preceded by an argument about football. Details at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, dear, 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 dear. I will be listening along with the rest of you as to the outcome of that situation. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, get out of it. What am I doing over there? Sorry, I had my audio on. I just posted, if you want to see a vicious deer attack, I just posted on the X machine at Matt Murphy Show an example of a vicious deer attack.
Deer attack?
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 deer in someone's front yard. It's pretty funny. These 2 deer are going after this inflatable deer.
Ah, I think I've seen that.
They're not. They're not.
This guy's in our territory. We got
what do we
take
do?
care of him.
I mean, I guess these are the other reindeer, and they're going after Rudolph because he's got the nose deal going on. I mean, they didn't let him play any reindeer games. If you want to see that, go over to at Matt Murphy Show on the X machine. We'd love for you to give us a follow. Ed is next in McMinnville. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Mr. Murphy. Good to talk to you. Real quick, we had a serious discussion during Christmas dinner over the Vols and Bama. Thank God no one got stabbed. I hate that happened to wherever it happened at. But to my point, I know it's terrible. To my point, so you touched on it briefly. As an adult, if you do what you want to do, knock yourself out, that doesn't bother me. But as far as the young men transitioning and then playing with girls, women, female, whatever you want to say, why is it always that direction? Why is it always dudes wanting to play with girls or women and not the other way around? I mean, I'm not doing any homework, and maybe there is. Maybe there's a lot of women out there transitioning to men, trying to play with men, and you just don't hear about it. I thought I'd ask you to see if you've heard anything, any stories you could share about that. But I'm just curious why it's always dudes trying to play with girls.
No, it's a great question. You know, I've heard, maybe some others have heard. If you want to share thoughts or stories that you've heard, 615-737-9986. I honestly cannot, off the top of my head, recall any recent story about a female who decides that she was born in the wrong body or she was born the wrong gender and she wants to transition to become a man. And let's say, for example, she was on the women's softball team and wants to join the baseball team. Or she was on the women's rowing team and wants to be on the men's rowing team. Or she was on the girls' volleyball team and wants to be on the boys' volleyball team. I've not heard about it. If that exists, I've not heard where that has happened. Mainly, I feel like because if that were to happen, these females that were competing on the girls' teams would not make the boys' teams, with maybe a few exceptions. I mean, I would think that we could find 1 or 2 across America of a girl so good. Now, what we have heard about, and I've seen this from time to time, you've seen where high school football teams every so often will get a female soccer player to be their kicker. Yeah, I've seen that.
That's happened. Well, Vanderbilt had a female kicker for a brief period of time.
That's right. Did they really?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Yeah. She only played a couple games. But
Was
still,
she
she did play.
Not a starter? She was maybe a backup? Or
I don't really remember.
Huh.
I can't recall. But they made a big deal out of it.
Well, I mean, but, there's a little bit more, there's some more comparisons that can be made. But, I mean, not comparisons. What word am I looking for? There's less of a gap between ability for a female kicking a football and a male kicking a football.
Yeah.
There's a skill level that's involved in doing some of that. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that about Vandy. But, no, you're right. The caller's exactly right. You don't hear about it going the other way. You hear a lot about it going from male to female because many of these – look, I'm not pretending to be inside of the heads of these young people, but all I know is this. Whatever they're thinking, whatever their thought process might be, whatever bathroom you think you're supposed to go in, you go into the bathroom of your biological birth. Otherwise, you have to figure it out. Society is not going to change the manner in which we've set ourselves up for 0.2% of the population, and that percentage, by the way, is generous. It is 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are staring down a chance for strong storms. Details coming up during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Here in Tennessee, one person is dead after a stabbing at the Kroger Distribution Center in Memphis this morning. One person detained by police. WREG, Channel 3 in Memphis, reports a relative of the victim says the men got into a fight over an argument about football. They started tussling, and her cousin was stabbed once in the thigh, 3 times in the stomach, and then his throat was cut. The victim's cousin identifying him as 38-year-old Jacoby Hobson. Hobson was a football coach whose son had just committed to Ole Miss. Kroger issuing a statement saying it is saddened and sends condolences to all impacted and providing counseling services for its employees. Bad news in East Tennessee. The Morgan Olson manufacturing plant in Loudoun counties notified state officials it plans to lay off 250 workers starting February 11th. The plant specializes in the production of walk-in vans. It's based out of Sturgis, Michigan, and employs more than 600 people in East Tennessee. And it's taking longer to land a job, according to data from the latest unemployment report. Here's Brian Clark.
The number of new jobless claims went down by 1,000 last week to 219,000, according to the Labor Department's weekly report. But continuing claims, the total number of Americans collecting benefits increased to 1.91 million, the most since November of 2021. That number suggests that people out of work are having a harder time finding a new position.
Here in Tennessee, starting today, you can drop off your real Christmas tree to be recycled in Clarksville and in Nashville. In Clarksville, trees can be dropped off at the Heritage Park, and there are 13 drop-off locations in Nashville, most of them at Metro Parks. The decorations and the lights need to be removed first by you. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. It looks like problems are starting to mount. We've got one here in the Gulch, 40 westbound at Demonbreun. That's an accident. Police reporting that. Then in Antioch, we've got a disabled vehicle blocking the shoulder, 24 eastbound, right after Harding Place. In Laverne, we've got an accident blocking the left shoulder, 24 westbound, right before Old Hickory Boulevard. And then back here downtown, South Loop, got a crash 40 westbound at 2nd Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 5:37. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you until 7 o'clock tonight. Thanks for being around on this day after Christmas. Hope your Christmas holiday was special. Spent time with family and friends. I certainly hope that. Over the Christmas time holiday, when they thought nobody would notice, the Biden administration gave a lot of commutations to a lot of murderers. We'll talk about that coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Plus, my takeaway, I know this happened. Some of these issues happened while I was gone, and I apologize for that, being a little bit late to the party. I imagine that many comments have been made about Matt Gaetz. Here's my thing. Let me tell you a story. I became a fan of golf and became a golfer around the time that Tiger Woods came on the scene. And I'm fascinated and I am drawn to watching individuals do things better than anyone else has done them. I think for most of us, it is fascinating to watch individuals rise to the point of excellence. I mean, we're watching it in our midst in the National Football League. I don't know that anyone has played the position of quarterback as good as Patrick Mahomes. And I understand that the Tom Brady GOAT factor is still there. But when all is said and done, I mean, if he goes on to one way or the other, he's doing it at a level. While I am not a fan of the team, I'm certainly a fan of the performance and am fascinated with the level of excellence that he puts on the field on a day-to-day basis. So back to Tiger Woods. So I was a big fan of Tiger Woods and became a fan of golf as a result of him. And to this moment, I mean, he moved the needle over the Christmas holiday when he played in that PNC father-son championship and almost beat, I think, the Langers eventually beat the Woods, Tiger and Charlie. But watching him and his son got a hole-in-one on one of the holes, it was a big deal. So years ago, when all of this came out about Tiger Woods and he was cheating on his wife, remember the quote-unquote accident that happened in Jupiter, Florida, where he accidentally hit something coming out of his driveway when it turned out that it was actually his wife that was hitting his car with a 7-iron or whatever because she found out that he was cheating on her. And there was so much robust disappointment in Tiger Woods. And I guess maybe I just look at these things differently. Because I had a tremendous amount of respect for his ability on the golf course. I had a tremendous amount of respect for the idea that he was doing something better than perhaps anyone else had ever done that particular thing that he was doing. And in this case, it was playing golf. And I understand there are still debates about Bobby Jones or Jack Nicklaus, and I'm not here to get into any of those debates. I'm simply observing that we were watching someone do something better than his peers, certainly, and perhaps anyone in the history of what he was doing. Doesn't matter what he was doing. And so those that knew that I was a fan of Tiger Woods, they would call him when the story came up that he apparently had multiple mistresses. And my takeaway was different. I never judged Tiger Woods based on the type of human being he was because I never pretended to know Tiger Woods. I don't know Tiger Woods. I don't know what kind of human he is. And I suppose it's a part of fandom that we want our heroes. We want those that we look up to. We want those that we admire to be good people. I want Tom Hanks to be a good guy. Why? I don't know, because I like him in the movies. I don't want him to be a bleeding heart liberal. Maybe he is, maybe he's not, I don't know. But I don't want that to be the case. And I feel like I tell that story about Tiger Woods, and I don't judge these people based on the type of, you judge them based on the character that they present. You certainly judge them based on the values that they present. But let's not pretend that we really know them. And I say all of that to ask this. Why are so many people defending Matt Gaetz? If you've not heard, and I can't imagine that you've not, the House Ethics Committee released its long-awaited report into the former Representative Matt Gaetz. They did so this past Monday, which put something of a bookend on the roughly 3.5-year investigation into the Florida Republican. The report, which is 42 pages long, includes several more pages in exhibits. It says that it found, quote, substantial evidence that Matt Gaetz violated House rules, state and federal law, and outlined allegations of prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, among other accusations. Gaetz, of course, has denied any wrongdoing. Matt Gaetz made an appearance over the weekend, I guess it was, out in Phoenix, Arizona. There was an event, it was a Charlie Kirk Turning Point event, in which he indicated his desire perhaps to run for United States Senate in the state of Florida, now with the Marco Rubio taking over as Secretary of State. I don't know what Matt Gaetz did or did not do. Neither do you. What I'm fascinated about more than anything are the number of conservatives that are vouching for the character of a man that they don't know. Let me put it to you as simply as I possibly can. And look, I understand that others might have different points of view. I understand. And if you do, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your point of view. And we need good conservative people in the halls of Congress. We obviously need more conservative government. We obviously need more of a Trumpian-style conservatism in Washington, D.C. None of that is the point of discussion that we're having right now. If you find yourself defending the idea of a 30-something-year-old man having sex with a 17-year-old, I would just, someone you've never met, I would just ask you, what are you doing? What are we even doing anymore? And despite being off and being away from media headlines for as much as I possibly could be, I come back to what feels like a considerable amount of defense. Once again, I appreciate the votes. I appreciate the political position. There are plenty of people that offer me the same political position that do not find themselves in these types of salacious, controversial, accused of these types of things. And it doesn't mean that Matt Gaetz is the only one. Of course it doesn't. Does it mean that we shouldn't find out where all of this money is going to that is there to cover up a variety of different situations? Of course that doesn't. No. I want to find out all of these things. As a matter of fact, I think it was Thomas Massey who said it earlier in the week. Of course, the representative from the state of Kentucky. Massey wanted to know where all this money and hush money went to.
You know, Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money, right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money. And I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors these sexual misconduct allegations?
Congressman, if a complaint were to come to us about it, I'm sure it would be thoroughly investigated.
That's Thomas Massey recently sitting before a committee hearing in the House of Representatives asking a very important question. Where did this $17 billion go, and who are we covering up for? I want to find out all of this and expose it to the American people. What does fascinate me, and I admit, I understand that there are some of you that don't like the nature of the conversation because you feel like I'm attacking our team. I'm not on Team Matt Gaetz. I don't know Matt Gaetz. And neither do you. And that's what's fascinating to me. The number of people, because you felt like he took a stand on this issue or that issue, and that's all well and good. Tiger Woods was a great golfer. He was a fabulous golfer. That doesn't mean he was a good human being. Matt Gaetz could have been a fabulous congressman. That doesn't mean that he's a good human being. And if you find yourself defending someone that you've never met because, well, the age of consent, or whatever the defense is, I've seen so many, well, she wasn't a real minor. I saw that. People were defending, well, she's 17, What are we doing? What are we doing? Do you have daughters? I challenge someone who, he's on our team, Murph. Come on now, let's not go after our team. No, I'm not on team anybody. I'm on team right. At least I try to be. I'm not here to cast aspersions, but if you find yourself questioning that, do you have daughters? Once again, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Do we need good, solid, physically conservative and socially conservative individuals in the halls of Congress? Absolutely. Am I fascinated with the desire, just a reflexive desire to defend Matt Gaetz because why? Because you like that he talked tough against this person or that person? Just remember, you do not know this man. And nor do I. Nor do I. But I know that I'm not going to defend someone that I don't know based on some of the accusations against him just because he votes the right way. That's my take on it. It's the Murphy Show, 50 after the hour, 10 minutes until 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Workplace stabbing in Tennessee. The victim's cousin says he died over an argument about football. Details coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's just sad, sad, sad. 55 after the hour, almost 5 minutes until, 4 minutes, thereabouts, until 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As Ken Weaver's been alerting you to, some nasty weather potentially over the next couple of days in Middle Tennessee. Just be on the lookout for that and keep it right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll continue to update you on some of that nasty weather that is coming our way, and we'll give you the latest on what you might expect as we get it. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Look, I understand that I'm taking a strong stand, and I don't know what's real and what's not real with regard to Congressman Matt Gaetz. I'm surprised at some of the more robust defenses being offered regarding Matt Gaetz, considering some of the allegations. Matt Gaetz is not being criminally accused of anything. Matt Gaetz has not been criminally charged with anything. As far as I'm concerned, Matt Gaetz could ultimately continue to serve as a representative of the state of Florida, and it is up to the voters from a political perspective to judge him as to whether or not they want him to continue. I mean, they go every 2 years, those voters do, as we do in our own individual districts. So I'm not suggesting anything other than I'm surprised at the number of people that seem to be willing to defend Matt Gaetz solely based on his political affiliation, considering some of the more damning accusations against him. Andrea writes in on the super text line, "This is the Matt that I love listening to when his face gets all serious and a little red because he's so passionate about a topic." That's why I try not to pull the Super Talk television side of things up in here, because I start scrunching my face up and I look ridiculous. Scott writes in, and he's offering a different point of view, and that's all well and good. That's what we're here for. They're truly vouching for him, or are they vouching for him, or are they being skeptical because there are accusations and allegations? It did not come out that the woman, who's made some of these accusations is currently in prison, and she's made the same accusations against another person. I think you can be skeptical without vouching for somebody if you don't know them. True, that's a fair point. I'm obviously not fully aware of all of the accusations made against him, but find myself being extremely skeptical when you hear these types of accusations against a Republican and somebody who is so outspoken against the establishment and the deep state. But obviously I wouldn't go so far as to vouch for him or defend him without knowing him. I find that what we do on a day-to-day basis, Scott, and I appreciate those comments, and I think they're valid points, very valid points. Yes, 7679, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I would suggest to you that the court of public opinion is not held to the same standard as a court of law, and I've long said this. The court of public opinion is entitled to whatever opinion it wants to have in America. Now, that opinion cannot go so far as to libel someone or slander someone. Now, then you can be held accountable, particularly if that person is a private individual and not a publicly forward face. The court of law and the court of public opinion are two very, very different things. 1394, doesn't Gaetz deserve a full vetting before we throw him under the bus? Well, I thought that's what we just did for 3.5 years. That was what the report was about, right? So determine for yourself whether or not it makes a difference in terms of your opinion. One more hour to go. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the potential for some severe weather in the horizon. Full forecast and traffic on 5 minutes. We're learning more about that fatal workplace stabbing in Memphis this morning. It happened at the Kroger Delta Distribution Center. WREG-TV reports the victim's cousin says he was stabbed once in the thigh, 3 times in the stomach, and his throat was slashed. Tasha Watkins says it started with an argument over football. Her cousin, 38-year-old Jacoby Hobson, was a football coach, and his son had just committed to Ole Miss. Police detained the other man but have not identified him. Kroger issued a statement saying it is saddened for its associate and condolences to all impacted and that it is providing counseling services. It's been another busy holiday travel day. Everything went smoothly with one big exception, says Mola Linge.
About 20% of Dallas's flights have been canceled. They've been experiencing delays, about 400 cancellations in all. And of course, we know that Dallas flies to and connects to so many airports across the country. So certainly seeing a ripple effect stemming from those cancellations and those delays.
Now, here in Nashville, BNA says today and tomorrow will be the airport's busiest days ever. Bad news in East Tennessee. 250 people going to be getting laid off from a manufacturing plant in Loudoun County. Morgan Olson LLC notified state officials earlier this month it will start the layoffs on February 11th. The Michigan-based company makes walk-in vans. It employs 600 people there at its plant in East Tennessee. And the latest unemployment snapshot suggests some people are having a difficult time finding new jobs once they file for unemployment benefits. Here's Brian Clark.
The Labor Department's weekly jobs numbers show the highest number of people collecting unemployment benefits since November of 2021. That number, 1.91 million for the week of December 14th, was up by 46,000 from the last reading. But new jobless claims went down by 1,000. The 4-week average sits at 226,500. Economists say it's a sign of a broadly healthy labor market.
Some folks in Nashville woke up to find their cars partially submerged due to a water main break this morning. In fact, there had been a series of them. This man telling Channel 4 what it looked like inside the parking garage at the Ludlow condominium complex in North Nashville.
It's going to be a bad day after Christmas for a lot of people. There's multiple cars that are flooded. It's halfway up the car doors. I saw at least one Tesla. I believe there's a vet down there. A couple Mercedes and my girlfriend's Toyota.
Spokesperson for Metro Water Services said all of the breaks are weather-related, caused by temperature change, ground moisture, and ground shifting. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash reported 40 westbound at Demonbreun Street. Police reporting that one. And I'm seeing some really backed up traffic both north and southbound Nolensville Pike. Looks like it's bumper to bumper going both directions in between Thompson Lane and Harding Place. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here comes hour number 4, the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, episode 716 of our gatherings together. And our first one where I can say this is the Matt Murphy Show from 3 until 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm pleased you've decided to join us, whatever time you're able to give us. We're certainly appreciative of that. Ken Weaver's back in the news area. He gathers headlines all afternoon long and delivers those professionally. Award-winning delivery, I might add. Chris Weber's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. I'm your humble correspondent from 3 until 7, the Matt Murphy Show. Disagree with me or agree with me, but know this. When it's time for me to be your pit bull, that's the one you want in the arena with you. I promise you, I will be a pit bull for you on these issues that matter most to you. We desire to inform, educate, and entertain at some point, all three, over the course of the afternoon hours. And let me tell you something. Entertaining it was yesterday. I found my way back. I took a break. I had about a week off, winding down the midday show and spending time with family and friends over the holiday season, and then eventually making my way back to the news cycle yesterday to try to figure out what the heck's been going on in the world. And as you might expect, there are some big items and some not so big. But yesterday, let me tell you, the entertainment portion of my afternoon was spent reading Donald Trump truths. So I don't know if you saw this. Donald Trump, in the several years that he's been away from politics, his worth increased by $3 billion. And most of that, he's now like, I think they say about a $6 or $7 or $8 billion man. His net worth increased for the most part because of Truth Social. He is a majority stakeholder in Truth Social, and apparently a lot of folks have gravitated over to Truth Social, and Donald Trump's probably a large part of that. I have an account on Truth Social mainly to follow DJT. I'm mostly on the X machine. It's a cesspool full of awful people saying awful things about other people, and I absolutely love it. Follow me at Matt Murphy Show. That's at Matt Murphy Show. We would appreciate that. Donald Trump is supposed to be following me over there, by the way, but that's another story for another moment. Yesterday, Donald Trump gave us a wonderful Christmas present in the form of several truths, as they call them on Truth Social. And I'm going to relate these to you for those who have missed them. Donald J. Trump, the once and future president of the United States of America, offering Christmas greetings. Merry Christmas to all, including the wonderful soldiers of China, who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal, where we lost 38,000 people in its building 110 years ago. Always making certain that the United States puts in billions of dollars in repair money, but will have absolutely nothing to say about anything. Also, to Governor, don't make me laugh, Governor Justin Trudeau. He called him governor of Canada, whose citizen taxes are far too high. But if Canada was to become our 51st state, their taxes would be cut by more than 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size. They would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. Likewise, the people of Greenland, which is needed by the United States for national security purposes, and who want the U.S. to be there, and we will. That's just part one. Here's page 2. Merry Christmas also to the radical left lunatics who are constantly trying to obstruct our court system and our elections and are always going after the great citizens and patriots of our United States, but in particular their political opponent, me. They know that it is their only chance of survival in getting pardons from a man who has... Let me start that line over because it's too good to mangle it. They know that their only chance... Oh, dadgummit, what did I do? Oh, I'm responding to his tweet. Oh, pardon me. Stand by. Oh, here we go. They know their only chance of survival is getting pardons from a man who has absolutely no idea what he is doing. Also, to the 37 most violent criminals who killed, raped, and plundered like virtually no one before them, but were just given incredibly a pardon by sleepy Joe Biden, I refuse to wish a Merry Christmas to those lucky souls, but instead will say, go to hell. We had the greatest election in the history of our country. A bright light is now shining over the United States of America, and in 26 days, we will make America great again. Merry Christmas. It might be the greatest social media post in history for any number of reasons. He encouraged the incorporation of two separate countries as future states of the United States of America, Canada and Greenland. He threatened to take back the Panama Canal against the desires of the Chinese people who, he said properly, run it. He told violent criminals to go to hell, which is always a good thing. Oh, and then he followed up with this one, also on Christmas. I just left Wayne Gretzky, the great one, as he was known in ice hockey circles. I said, Wayne, why don't you run for Prime Minister of Canada? Soon to be known as the Governor of Canada. You could win easily. You wouldn't even have to campaign. That's my pathetic Trump. He had no interest, but I think the people of Canada should start a draft Wayne Gretzky movement. It would be so fun to watch. It would be fun to watch. As Donald Trump from Christmas Day on any number of fronts. Is Donald Trump serious about the taking back of the Panama Canal? Well, Donald Trump seems to believe that he is. Donald Trump recognizes that we are getting raked over the coals in terms of, I mean, we gave up the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave up the Panama Canal. And Donald Trump is simply stating that he wants America to take it back. Now, of course, the media outlets that already hate Donald Trump immediately slipped out and started saying that, well, Panama's leader, they have rights too, and they shot back. And, Donald Trump suggested that the United States of America should take over the operation of the Panama Canal, which is obviously a waterway that we built. And correctly, Donald Trump noted that thousands and thousands of people died during its construction. Weber, I'll put you on the spot. Okay. In the White Hot Spotlight. Would you care to guess how most of the people who assisted in the construction of the Panama Canal died?
Malaria.
Very good. Man, oh man. I don't like producers being smarter than hosts. Yes, it's malaria. Yeah. The mosquitoes down there. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, malaria killed more than anything else upon the building of the Panama Canal. Panama's leader, after Donald Trump suggested that we should be in control of this deal unless our shipping fees get lower. They charge us for going through there, American interests for going through there. The leader of Panama shot back in a recent statement saying the waterway is, quote, not for sale. Since then, Donald Trump has posted again about the Panama Canal. A series of statements. He suggested the U.S. take over Greenland. He suggested the U.S. take over Canada and make America's hat the 51st state. For those who don't know, the Panama Canal was built by the United States of America between 1904 and 1913. It opened in 1917. Building the canal cost roughly $375 million. It was the most expensive construction project in the history of the United States of America at the time. Thousands of laborers died during the grueling construction process, most of which died from malaria or complications as a result of malaria. The canal connects the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans, offering ships a shortcut to avoid, before the Panama Canal, they had to go around South America, which was, as you might expect, a pain in the ass. The canal clearly revolutionized shipping traffic in the region. The U.S. acquired the rights to build and operate the canal in the early 20th century, but at the time, Panama was in the process of seceding from Colombia, whose Senate was refusing to ratify a treaty that would allow the canal to be built. To ensure the canal would be built, according to the history of the project, then President Theodore Roosevelt supported Panamanian independence. What was the old, what do they call it? Palindrome? It was an old...
Same forwards as backwards?
Yeah. It was an old, a man a plan Panama or something like that. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. It was something having to do with the Panama Canal. Anyway, the Panama signed a treaty in 1903 with the United States of America that established permanent U.S. rights to the Panama Canal Zone that stretched across, well, Panama. However, and this is kind of a funny quirk in history, apparently the person who negotiated on Panama's behalf did not have the authority to do the negotiations in the manner that he presented that he did. And he had not lived in Panama for the last 17 years. So many Panamanians questioned the validity of the treaty. Throughout the 20th century, U.S. and Panama dealt with tensions surrounding the canal, including a riot in the 1960s. They eventually, in 1967, they negotiated a new treaty. They reached an agreement, but a coup in Panama led to the establishment of a new government in the Central American nation, according to the Office of the Historian. Because of that, the negotiations suffered a setback. The treaties eventually were collectively signed on September 7th, 1977. And in the spring of 1978, the U.S. Senate voted to ratify the treaties. Carter signed them into law on September 27th of 1979. The canal was transferred to Panama December 31st, 1999, during the Clinton administration. The Panama Canal now has been owned and operated by the Panama Canal Authority, a government-owned agency, since 1999. Since taking control of the waterway, the Panama Canal Authority has invested billions in expanding the canal. A $5.25 billion expansion of the canal opened in 2016, doubling the waterway's capacity and cutting global maritime cost by an estimated $8 billion a year. About 40% of the world's cargo ship traffic moves through the Panama Canal. 40%. That's a lot. I mean, well, it's 40%. It's 4 out of every 10. About 2/3 of the traffic in the canal is either headed for or leaving the United States of America. So between 13,000 and 14,000 ships use the canal every year. There's a series of, apparently, this always fascinated me when I was a kid. And pardon me if I'm belaboring the subject based on my fascination as a child. But I was fascinated by the fact that apparently the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean are at 2 different sea levels. Right? So I know that seems weird, but it's true. And so because of that, they had to have these series of locks in the canals where a ship goes into a lock and they seal the lock, and then they lift the ship and put it into another lock, and then they lift the ship and put it into another lock, and then eventually it gets out on the other side and it's at the appropriate level, something that it could not obviously do. You couldn't just dig a trench, in other words.
Right, because of the terrain of the land in which the canal is built.
Right.
Different elevations on each side.
Different elevation points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's I guess maybe I'm saying it wrong. The sea's not technically at different levels. It's just where the land is.
Where the land and sea come together, yeah.
I mean, I guess technically. I mean, there's land over here. Y'all watch on TV? There's land over here, and there's land over here. Yeah.
Something like that.
You got to have a canal, buddy. One way or the other, Donald Trump is suggesting that we're being overcharged, and as a result, maybe we should just retake it. I mean, what are they going to do is the idea. Some Democrats are now stating openly that Donald Trump is trying to get us into a war with Panama. Well, how long would that last? 3 days? I mean, really, you're talking about diminishing the influence of China, which has tremendous influence in that zone and has bought a lot of assets in and around the Panama Canal for their own purposes and gets sweetheart deals as a result. It's 21 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weaver. I probably have mangled some of the language regarding the Panama Canal and saying things like sea level being different from one side to the next.
Let's not get caught up in the details now. Come on.
People are giving me hell on the super text line because I said that the sea levels were different, but I think that's basically right. I mean, I think that's right. I mean, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but
the elevation
is different on one side of that landmass and the other, and so they had to make account for those elevations, and they accounted for those elevations by the locks.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. Maybe Matt can correct me. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
I've been meaning to call you for a while now. Just my work schedule got in the way, so. Of course, I do listen to conservative radio, see what I'm up against. But, when I first started listening to you, I agree with you about 25%. Now it's down to 1%. So today you made me call how the comment that you made was, well, if we take over Panama, what are they going to do? The United States is the greatest economy in the world, correct?
Yes, sir.
So who's number 2? Okay, so China's number 2. If we alienate all of our allies and do this, quote unquote, America separatists, they don't have to be our allies. They can go elsewhere. And now we'll have an enemy in Canada, an enemy in Mexico, China on one side and Russia on the other. So I think we got to really be careful on how strong we actually are, because we don't have the infrastructure right now to support 325 million people in this country when we can't even feed ourselves. So I think we really need to take a look at what's really important.
What do you think is really important, Matt?
What's really important is we have everything that we need. We complain. I don't know if you've been around the world, but I have, and the people around the world would love to have the problems that we have. I think that we're spoiled. I think that we're arrogant. I think that we complain tremendously. And I think it's,
Where do you think? I mean, we started the conversation, and I'm appreciative of it. But you started the conversation by saying you listened to me, and at the beginning you agreed with me about 25% of the time, and now we're down to like 1%, and that's fine. But I much prefer to try to have a constructive conversation and figure out where's that 1%? Where do we agree, Matt?
Where do we agree?
We agree that, all right, so let's start here. We agree that the United States of America remains, with all of our faults, the greatest country on God's green earth. Do we agree with that?
I agree with that. As of right now, things can change, but as of right now, that statement is correct.
Do you agree that America is one of the best, maybe not the best in your mind, but one of the best examples of a representative republic or an indirect democracy?
I would agree with that.
Right. And do you agree that in order for the people of the world to truly be free, that it would benefit those individual people around the world to look to the United States of America as an example of what freedom truly represents?
In a general sense, yes.
Okay. All right, so we agree in American greatness. What's wrong with America reasserting itself in these arenas that you mentioned and asserting our greatness in a fashion that reestablishes ourselves as the singular, with the exception of China, the singular superpower in the world? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with reminding the rest of the world? What's wrong? Let me give you another example. What's wrong with reminding Canada that Canada has it as easy as they do because they're America's hat?
Because I think that these sovereign countries have to look at politics from their angle, and they're trying to make a better deal. And I don't blame China for the deals that they make, because they have to deal with their country and their people, just like Canada, just like Mexico. So when we don't get our way, that means that we push them even further. Well, I'm sorry that you know.
Well, I don't think you should diminish, though, Matt, the importance of America to the rest of the world. China's not going to do anything that would cut it off with the United States. You understand how much China's economy depends on us?
To prove a point, see, would you say that before they got number 2 that China was poor? Would you agree with that?
I mean, broad swaths of China are still poor. They're a communist country. The citizens of China remain dirt poor.
Okay, so they have dealt with being poor. So if they turned around and shipped all of their products to all over the world other than the United States, they would still make their money.
They already. What are you talking about? Where are they not shipping right now that they could just magically ship to? What are you talking about?
Well, what I'm just saying is, United States is not the only game in town. So if they wanted to shut down the United States, they would just stop sending every product that they have.
The one thing that I could think of, Matt, that would cause a human revolution in China would be to shut off the United States of America. The one thing that the Chinese government actually fears in terms of human revolution would be to shut it off with the United States of America and the abject, the mass poverty that would exist as a result of shutting that off. I think you underestimate, and I'll tell you what I'll do. In deference to our differences of opinion, I'll give you the last word, but I got to do it in just a minute because Ken Weaver's awaiting his final newscast of the evening. So, Matt, you hang in there, and we'll give you the last word on this subject. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm going to finish up with Matt. I'll talk with Lee. And then I'm going to play a game of Murphy Was Right. My first opportunity to do that since being in the afternoon time slot, 3 to 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For those of you that were laughing at me. I mean, I saw you over there on the Super Text line just guffawing, openly mocking your humble host for suggesting that oceans could be different sea levels. I got some news for you. Just wait for it. Matt, I have a question for you before I give you the final word, because I admit I looked this up. I was out of curiosity. I looked this up. Matt, would you care to guess the amount of money in trade that China did with the United States of America in 2023?
I would have no idea.
It's almost $600 billion.
A lot of money.
There's a lot of money. Total trade that China has done around the world as of 2022, is the last figure I could find, was 2022, was $3.7 trillion. So, 600, that's roughly 20-ish%. I'd have to put pen to paper to do the math, but so the United States of America represents about 20% of their annual trade with other countries. So it's a pretty big deal. I am not suggesting that partnership is not necessarily going both ways. I mean, the United States of America desires those goods. We need to get off Chinese goods. I would love to see us do that. But to suggest that there are not ways, and we were doing it in the first Trump administration, the ultimate point is this. There are plenty of ways around the bluster of Donald Trump for us to position ourselves better with the Chinese people to try to get our trade imbalance a little more in phase. And we're not going to balance it overnight, but we can get a better balance of trade through tougher and stronger negotiations. And they'll negotiate with us because they need that $600 billion. I'll give you the final word.
The final word is we probably, never totally 50% agree on politics, but that doesn't mean I don't like you and I'm not going to listen to the show. And if I was in public and you were at a bar, I'd buy you a drink.
Yeah, man.
We can have a difference of opinion, but the conservatives hate the liberals and the liberals hate the conservatives. That's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, I don't work that way. And, Matt, I encourage you to call me as often as you're able. I encourage you to challenge me as often as you're able. I encourage every person listening to this radio show to do the same. I want to be challenged. I think that we can sharpen our own skills and we can sharpen our own political positions by talking to folks who perhaps disagree with us.
Now, I do have a question for you, though.
Sure.
Out of all the you do this on a daily basis, and it's not my profession. But I am of the opinion that the Democrats and the Republicans are the same bird, just two wings of the same bird. Because if you really look at it, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, they don't do enough for their people, and they never have. And that's just my opinion. And am I wrong?
No, I mean, I think there's some validity to what you're saying. I would agree that there are establishment types that believe in the power of government when it comes to any issue that might be in front of a group of people or individuals in this country. In other words, there are plenty of Republicans that have, quote-unquote, Republican solutions to the problem that involve more government. There are plenty of Democrats that feel the same way. And those are bigger government types. What I have said, Matt, and this kind of blow your mind, that today's Republicans are yesterday's Democrats. Today's Democrats are yesterday's socialists. There aren't really many conservatives anymore. There aren't really a lot of people arguing that the federal government needs to serve the American people less. I make that argument because I think we've way extended ourselves beyond the constitutional duty and responsibility of the United States government. But I would also argue that if you saw less government interference, you would see a lot of the systems that used to exist to protect American interest and American individually, like charitable organizations, church groups, community organizations, family and friend groups, those have long been replaced by government assistance. And I think we need to get back to a sense of community and responsibility on the municipal level. Thank you for the call. I know that that's probably deeper than you wanted to go. But I would agree that far too many Republicans believe that government is the answer to our problem when long ago it was Ronald Reagan that said the government isn't the answer to our problems, the government is the problem. Now, let's play a little game called Murphy Was Right. Murphy was right. Murphy was right. Typically when I do this, I didn't warn Chris Webber. When I do the Murphy was right, we go, and cut. There you go. Here's what I was right about. I'm not right very often, so I have to show off when I am. Is the Pacific Ocean higher than the Atlantic Ocean? According to multiple sources that I researched during the 3 minutes that I had a timeout while Ken Weaver was doing his last newscast, yes, the Pacific Ocean is generally speaking higher than the Atlantic Ocean, which is why the Panama Canal uses a system of locks to manage the difference in height between the two oceans. The boats enter a chamber filled with or emptied with water to raise or lower the ship's level to the correct level. It is also affected by the tides, which differ from coast to coast. The difference in height between the two oceans is important for a number of reasons, including the shape and depth of the ocean floor. They affect how carbon is stored, human activities. The difference in height affects navigation, fishing, and water resource management. Pacific waters are typically warmer, less salty, and less dense than Atlantic waters, accounting for much of the height difference. Mr. Weber, would you care to guess how different the height is?
75 feet.
75 feet. Anybody else? I'm going to let folks guess. Anybody want to guess the difference in the height between the Pacific and the Atlantic? At least if I believe my resources, it's less than 75 feet. Hello, Lee. How are you?
Hey, fine.
What's on your mind, Lee?
Hey, I'm the dude, guy from Bowling Green, the Braves, and the Chase Elliott, Georgia Bulldog fan. Anyway,
oh
the
man,
reason
Lee,
why
you're with family. You know, you got two dogs right here, Chris Webber and Matt Murphy. You know that, right?
Yeah, I knew that.
What's the score? What's the score going to be?
I'd say the next game or the final.
Yeah, Notre Dame. No, well, I mean, I like the way you're thinking, Lee.
I think maybe a couple touchdowns.
Okay.
I watched Notre Dame play. They're decent, but I mean, look at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lake in the middle of that area down there. So what happened when they was digging it, they couldn't dig down far enough because, back in the 1800s, whatever. And so they decided to build rivers to meet to that lake. And so that's why they had the locks to get up to that, sail across the lake, and then go down the river to the Pacific Ocean or vice versa.
Well, I have learned that in my copious amount of research being done over the last 10 minutes, I've learned a couple of things, Lee. One is that the locks themselves are largely for the topography of Panama, to cross over the region of Panama.
To get over the mountains.
To get over the mountains, right.
That they couldn't dig through.
That they could not dig through, correct. Because they were using steam shovels. Like big, massive steam shovels. I mean, obviously before pre-electricity or internal combustion engines.
And John Deere and Caterpillar and,
Oh, yeah. Government contracts aplenty, I imagine, back in the day. Lee, thank you for the call. I'm going to scoot along. I appreciate the call. Go Dogs. And call again very soon. The figures that I'm seeing, 8 inches.
Okay.
I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. The Pacific Ocean is generally higher on average by about 20 centimeters or 8 inches.
Oh, just on average. So this is not necessarily at the Panama Canal, or is it? Is that what we were talking about? Or were you just talking about in general?
We were talking about the Panama Canal. The Pacific Ocean is higher than the Atlantic. Here are the reasons. So obviously, just to back it out from 50,000 feet, I mean, the oceans cover more than 70% of our planet. The Pacific and the Atlantic are the two biggest. They look like twins. The Pacific is, generally speaking, 20 roughly centimeters higher than the Atlantic, not
so just
necessarily
generally
at Panama.
Yeah.
I'm sure Panama is more like 75 feet.
Sure. But you're right. I guess it would be more just the topography of
Right,
the
you gotta-
land where you're cutting through. Yeah, it's not going to be just a flat. Yeah.
Right. You couldn't. I mean, if you if you get to a mountain that's 300 feet in the air, do you want to dig down 300 feet to make all that level from sea to shining sea, or do you just kind of lock it up?
Yeah, just
and step it back down.
Yeah.
Several factors of ocean physics that contribute in different proportions to the existence of the unevenness. One of them is density, the property that determines the amount of mass in a unit of volume. The Atlantic is saltier than the Pacific, which is why it is denser and has more pressure, so it's more compressed, and it sits, one would think, a little bit lower. And there's more rain over the Pacific Ocean than the Atlantic Ocean, which creates, I guess, a level change.
And I would assume that helps dilute it a little bit, so it's not as salty.
Not as salty. There you go. So the balance resulters, and I'm just reading it here. It receives more fresh water from rainfall, and that contributes to the lower salinity of the Pacific Ocean versus the Atlantic Ocean. Temperature is another factor that contributes to the density of water mass. The higher the temperature, the lower the density. The Pacific has, on average, a slightly higher temperature than the Atlantic, which contributes to it being less dense, therefore, quote, higher. So there you go. You learn something every day. I learned it along with you. I thought I remembered that one side was higher than the other. I spoke out of an orifice that was not my mouth, and then I had to quickly repair it and confirm that I was, in fact, barely right by 8 inches. Right by 8 inches, 20 skinny centimeters.
Right is right, though.
Well, there you go. 49 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you until 7. We'll hand off to the great one or whomever might be filling in for the great one. I don't know if Mark Levin is there or not. Until then, you and me. Danny is next up. He's got a joke about Panama. Danny, this better be good.
Well, I don't know if it's good or not. Hey, y'all talking about the Panama Canal. We all got to have the humor in life. And I'll update an old joke. What's the difference between Panama Canal and Kamala Harris?
All right, before
Panama Canal.
Hold on, Danny. Hold on. Let me think about this.
Okay.
Is this gonna be clean, by the way? Relative?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. All right. Then I'm not gonna steal your thunder. What is the difference between the Panama Canal and Kamala Harris?
Panama Canal is a busy ditch. There we go. I'll add that for you. All right. Y'all have a great day.
He added his own trombone.
That made it work. That made it fun. It was not fun until he said, wah, wah, wah. Man, he knew it was coming. It is somewhat of an annual tradition. I don't pretend that I watch this show from start to finish every Christmas. But I always find It's a Wonderful Life to be on at some point over the Christmas holiday. And because I will not be able to do this until next year, I thought I would share with you something that I found online. This is from David Burge. I don't know if David wrote this himself. I want to give credit where credit is due. But this is a take on It's a Wonderful Life that I had not quite thought about, but I think I'm going to take it up for the rest of my life. Now, in order to understand it, David starts with an iconic photograph of Norman Rockwell, a great American artist, did a series of paintings that he called the Four Freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and et cetera. And freedom of speech was a man standing in what looks to be like a leather jacket with a flannel shirt on, with some notes in his pocket. And he looks to be standing before an assembled council, and he is speaking before that council. Freedom to redress your government for, grievances, or to speak openly about a given issue. And with that, David Burge writes, "Sirs, after seeing the exciting plan, I move that we change Bedford Falls to Pottersville. The vibrant nightlife district will revitalize downtown after that sad pharmacy poisoning scandal. Before voting, I ask you gentlemen to consider this. Option A, sell our naming rights. The town treasury will then bulge with hotel, bar, casino, and even brothel taxes. The tourism alone will pay for the move. Option B, continue as Bedford Falls, the gullible little town that bailed out a crap savings and loan run by idiots. May I remind you and this town council that the Bedford Falls extremists are the very same people who pushed the $12 million bond issue to install a dangerous retractable basketball floor above the high school swimming pool. The lawsuits alone will bankrupt this city. I put it to you, gentlemen. We must say no to the leadership that okayed Bailey bailouts backed by imaginary angel promises, rubber-stamped licenses for poisoning pharmacists, and endangered our children with taxpayer-funded, chlorine gas-weakened basketball floor boondoggles. I say vote Pottersville and save this city. And
Wow.
It's
a pretty powerful argument.
I kind of agree with it. Who thought of that? One, how in the world, the technology involved in the retractable floor deal, that was pretty cool for back in the 1940s, right?
That's an actual high school.
Is it really?
Yeah. It was also used in another movie back in the 80s or 90s, I think. I think it's like Beverly Hills High School or something like that.
Oh, excellent.
It's a real school gym.
A real school deal.
Yeah, with a pool underneath.
You ever watch It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh, yeah.
George's kind of whiny.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a tough watch to me. I like it, but it's tough.
The end is great.
Yeah,
the end is fabulous. When to my big brother George, the richest man in town, the end is fabulous. But somewhere for the hour and a half that you have to suffer through to get to the end, you're right. It's kind of a tough watch. All right, that's going to do it for our Thursday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being along for the ride for the first afternoon drive edition. Thank you to Chris Weber and Ken Weaver. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Until then, so long, everybody.